Hello and welcome to Almost in Agreement. Sam and I are in the room. We had some guests lined up and they both douched out, so you're stuck with us again. Had another eventful week in, I don't know, the teeth have come out in these election cycles. I mean, good God, at least on Facebook, the my opponent is an asshole, this, that, and the other is pretty intense right now, so expect that for the next many moons. So I'm waiting for my mailbox to load up with all the craziness from that one. There was a march today, so a bunch of people came out for that march, so that's kind of cool. So anyway, Almost in Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. Voter Guide 22 is in there. I need to do some updates as per usual. If they're still in the race, I've got to link their website and the interview that they've done with me if I've had a chance to. I've started conversations with a few people. I'll get some more interviews going. Obviously, personally, Elaine Davis and Testerman is high on my list. But there's a few, Mark Harmon, a couple other people. Anyway, so I'm going to keep working on it. I'm going to get some more people in here. We'll get back to doing interviews. I'm settling in with the Compass Show, so that's that. Anyway, Almost Agreement. Here we go. Me and Sam doing a thing. Hey, buddy, what is happening?
Oh, hello.
So, I don't know. What's new? What's happening? Like, that was actually a real question, not just a greetings question.
I just woke up from a nap, so I'm still waking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. You woke up from a nap. My bad.
Well, no, I mean, it's what I'm here for.
to be quiet and not say anything because you're sleepy?
Well, no, I mean, we had this scheduled to be here at this time. I just thought I'd try to squeeze in a little nap before. I just didn't think I'd wake up as groggy. So
you're
planning
I'd
feel a little bit more refreshed.
Planning on a super sharp, waking up, blasting awesomeness.
Oh, that was the hope.
All right, so we'll start with this weird story. I'm now friends with Elizabeth Murphy on Facebook. I don't know if that was a poor life choice or not. She liked some comment I had on some Compass argument conversation, and for the sake of the show, I'll often go through and people that like or comment on something that I did in conversation or whatever, I'll add them as friends because every time I post a show, I post it onto my personal Facebook page as well, promotionally. So the more friends I have, the more people will be exposed to the show through Facebook or whatever. But I mean, I'm assuming she's exposed to the show already anyway. But yeah, weird P lady saw my thing. I don't know. Like there was a. So okay, I'll start with this one. I'm sorry, Matt Shears. I don't know if this one was in confidence or not, but I'm breaking the story here. I'll have to find the exact wording of the conversation, but you know, there's all the conversation right now about the city's raising taxes. The actual tax rate is going to drop and then rise because that's what it does. And so there's two parts at play. One part was back in last summer when I was neck deep in all the city candidates. All the winners actually were at least speaking on the format of it's not likely they're not planning on raising taxes. That's not on their agenda. They don't want to, but none of them closed the door and say no. Where the Republican slate was like, we will not raise taxes. We will vote against any raising taxes.
Okay. And
so now the mayor's budget for the city is out, and it includes a 50 cent per $100 whatever. But when the math shakes out, it'll really only be a 35-cent thing because of the way the whole thing works.
And just added to property tax.
On the property tax, right. Okay. Because I don't know what the city one is exactly, but at least for their total working budget in a year, like the county at least is like 70% of their total working budget is property tax. There's like 7% that's like fines and tickets and that kind of punitive damages kind of thing that goes into their budget. And then there's another subset of grants that's weird math. Some grants come into the budget and then go back out. Some grants don't ever touch the budget, that kind of crap. Anyway, point is, I remember it was very strongly implied by all the candidates last summer that raising taxes was not on the agenda. And Nick Cipro specifically said they're going to have to keep up with the spending they're planning on doing and the stuff that they want to do, they're going to have to raise taxes. He's like, it's not a conversation about if, it's when and how much, period. And
I don't know if it was an absolute at that time.
There's
a lot of wiggle room that you can have in budget talks.
My point is that was his take. And the Knox Dems, as well as a bunch of the candidates that were on the left, not necessarily the Dems, because it's a nonpartisan race, blah, 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 blah. But, Lauren Ryder, Seema Singh, who was Nick Cipro's actual direct opponent, was like, no, the city's in great financial shape. Matt Shears told me 1,000 times how the city is much better financial shape than the county is. They have a much better bond rating. They have whatever, like, I don't know, all the little financial factors that they count, they're much better at. It's like, okay, cool, great. That thing that got me all pissed off is like the week of elections when the city put out that thing talking about how great their budget is, that I thought was inappropriate because it was obviously aimed at some of the campaign complaints from the right.
Yeah.
But here we are doing exactly what they were not doing last year because it was a campaign cycle. So anyway, that all leads into Matt Shears says to me earlier this week, basically, the county's going to have to raise taxes at some point. Well, duh. But in a more particular, like the way he said it was almost exactly what Nick Cipro was saying last summer about the city and the Dems. And now the Dems are saying it about the Republicans in the county. And it's like, I literally said to Matt, I was like, dude, change it from city to county. And that's exactly what Nick said to me. That's exactly what Nick Cipro said to me. And you guys screamed at him for it. And like fake news kind of bullshit, yelling at him about how that's not the way it works. That's not going to happen. We don't have any intent on raising the budget or the taxes and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, he was right. Did he predict the future, or did he actually, look at the budget and see what was going on and saw that it was obvious, or was he just blind guessing and got lucky? I don't know, but he was right. But at the time, he was
50-50 shot.
At the time, he was screamed at for it, and he was made out, and as was a number of the city candidates on the right. They were all on that whole, we're not going to raise taxes. The city keeps trying to raise taxes. The city...
Define screamed at.
I mean, I was probably in person from time to time. I don't know for a fact, but at least in the conversations that I was part of, or I was a witness to online, or others, where it was
more so privately than publicly.
No, I mean publicly on Facebook and stuff like that. Publicly through statements from opponents. Again, Lauren and Seema in statements to Knox News or other stuff, or the city of Knoxville's whole thing at the time about how awesome they are in finances, that they talked about last summer.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, that's fine, but Nick was right. And nobody's going to say Nick, nobody's going to go back in time and say Nick was right. Not that it matters anymore. Nick doesn't really exist as far as any political things are going on anymore. But as much as I think Nick's kind of a weird dude, not my favorite, not like, I think he's a really cool guy, but not on my list of people that I necessarily want to be in elected office. You got to give him some credit for being right about a number of different things, but like most of the things that he was right about were shut down, were written off as campaign rhetoric, not real. And it's like that's not true. And then, but anyway, the whole point of that was that Matt said the opposite about county now, and it's like, yeah, but they're not going to raise taxes because they said they weren't, and they have no intention to. As long as Mayor Jacobs is mayor, he will not raise taxes. Okay.
Is there more to that story? Or
I don't remember. There was more. Like, it was just the idea that, like, it was just weird because out of the most left leaning person that I talk to on a regular basis, at least in the standard political system that we have locally, said something exactly the same as somebody on the right told me a year ago, and said it in a way like, I mean, it was exactly the same phrase. It was the same statement. It was just a different body, a city instead of county or whatever. And I thought that was, I don't know, like, I couldn't help myself. I think my immediate reaction when he said it was, oh my God.
I mean,
seriously.
I don't know if I said it at the time or whatever. I would think that both were a likely inevitable. Especially, I mean, I don't keep up with how many times are the most recent tax increase, but
county was like
taxes over time do tend to increase.
County was like 04, and with the way the property tax works, it's inevitable. Property tax is never going to outpace inflation. And I want to say when I was talking to the Compass guys this weekend off air, I'd asked on a whim, and Scott looked it up real fast, and it said 44% of the county's budget after school board, because school board's like 70% of the total budget. But of their not school related funding in county, like 44% of that is property tax, and then like 19% of that is the local portion of state sales tax. 7% is state sales tax that comes back to us, which I didn't really quite understand that part, but the lion's share of the county's budget is from property tax, of their working budget at least. Because again, like I said, most of it, it's going to be, I think it's $592 million school board budget this year. That's up from like a 540 from last year. And I think the total, I think Mayor Jacobs put out his budget last week. I think the total is $905 million. It's the entire county budget, but take $690 right off for the school board.
Okay.
And so it's like a $300 million budget, give or take, of what they get to actually spend. $590 school board leaves them like $320 for the county total. Anywho, I just find it, I don't know. The political part of that I find fascinating, but it goes back to the same thing. It goes back to my party chair show.
Was it surprising?
I mean, it's not, but it's I don't know. The hypocrisy part is frustrating. It's just frustrating. And it's a reality because it goes back to the point of what the result that I got from on my little party elite show or whatever you want to call it that I did last week is that the only thing that matters is the other's wrong and we win. Whatever we have to do or say to get the other one to lose gets us winners, and we win. And so
that's the game a lot of them play. Yes,
right. But then I would fall back on my standard stupid question: is that good for me? No, it's not. But yeah, we continue down this road. The me part again. Clarify what I mean by me. Not me personally, this person in this chair right now, me as the citizen of Knox County, my blank Knox County residency across the board. It's not good for us. Whether that's county, state, or federal.
For politicians to be misleading?
Well, that, sure. But that the party's agenda is to hold as many offices as possible. The more offices they hold, the better. The more they can do what they want. But what they want doesn't necessarily line up with what we elected them to do ever. So, right. Because again, right now on the federal level, it's easy. All the things the left wants, they could do right now, and they don't. Why don't they do it? Same thing. AC, when we first couple episodes we did this, when AC was railing on, why didn't Trump build the fucking wall? He had both houses. He had the White House. He can essentially do whatever he wants because he doesn't want to actually do it. Why doesn't he want to actually do it? Because I don't know. I don't know why they don't want to actually, why they don't follow through when they can. Obama did it first 2 years of his term. He had the entire federal government on his side and couldn't get, had to force Obamacare through in his lame duck years. It was at the end.
I remember when it went through.
I think it was the last 2 years of his 8. I'm pretty sure. But he could have done it in the first 2 years, and it should have been easy because, and again, right now, it could be it's not filibuster proof, but the Senate and the House and the White House could put some sort of abortion bill in place right now and get it through. But they won't.
The Senate tried this week.
Right. And then why not? Who didn't vote for it? All the Republicans, because they're Republicans.
I think it's supposed to go through a 2/3 majority if it starts in the Senate, because I think it was initiated as a Senate bill.
No, I mean I don't know some of the processes part. I acknowledge.
That's what I'm thinking, but for whatever reason, it didn't pass.
I think it's a 2/3.
I think it actually may have got filibustered.
I think that's where the 2/3 comes in. Is it has to be 2/3 or 60%.
I know it has to be 2/3 to override a veto.
I thought it was 2/3 to overrun to block a filibuster. Like it's filibuster proof.
I think it's that in both cases.
I think it's the word they use, but still, I mean, you could at least make it. You could make it. Again, it goes back to like this whole Roe Wade thing right now. To me, it's just this dumb game that I feel like there's this dumb game that it's like the Republicans had a walk. They had, and they probably still do, but they had a walk in taking the House and Senate in these midterms. It should have been easy. It should have been. I mean, it just should have been easy. It still probably will be pretty overwhelming numbers wise, but it's going to be less than it could have been because of this. And it's like politics. What are you doing?
Very possibly. I mean, it could very much amp up both sides.
Right, but it could. This could very well be the issue. But I'm just saying, like, if you would have left this until December, if you could, you would already had the House and Senate and wouldn't have to worry about any possibility of it getting pushed back. And again, like, to me, I'm surprised they did it because it's an electability issue. You don't fix the big problems you run on, because when you fix them, you don't get elected again. Nobody elects you to maintain course. They elect you because you don't want to change. They want something different. They want something better. Or they want less government, whatever it is. They want the thing. But once you give them the thing, then...
Right. I mean, no one's going to run on, like, I'm going to keep things good.
Right.
Everybody wants, like, what are you going to do to improve?
Right.
What's going to make me happier? I don't want...
But I'm saying on the big issues, on the stuff that are single issue voters, abortion being a big one, you never actually wanted to do anything with it, because once you do something with it, that voter's not that voter that all they care about is abortion, they probably don't come out and vote because it's already taken care of. All I care about is whether or not we're allowed to have abortions or not. That's all I care about.
Or maybe they continue to support it because you finally got to something that was overturned from 50
But I mean, it's
years
pretty
ago.
clear from the numbers and stuff that, like, you've got to have people activated. They've got to be serious to get the numbers out that you need to make significant swings. You've got to have people activated on something.
I mean, most of the polls that I see, the people in the middle are essentially are kind of a growing consensus.
I mean, I agree that the independent voter is how we get from a Democrat to a Republican every fucking election. Yes. I mean, I think the hardcore Democrats and the hardcore Republicans are going to vote that no matter what.
Right.
And the only reason we swing back and forth is because the middle does. But I think, I think if you're a diehard, what's the phrase? Dyed in the wool anti-abortion person, this Roe v. Wade thing getting overturned, I don't know, your energy to go out and vote this time around probably drops because you don't care as much because you have what you want. And I think that's normal. I'm not saying it's a particular of this type of person or not. It's just the issue I picked on the fly. I don't care. I don't need to vote. I got what I wanted. I don't need to vote for anything. I think that happens, period, with a significant number of people. I mean, I think that's the only explanation for the 2020 election anyway. It's the biggest election in history because so many people are activated for or against Trump that we had the largest turnout in history. Trump has the most votes that a Republican has ever gotten in history.
Was it by how much?
I don't remember what the total number is, but it was up.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, like, the whole reason that election was so massive was because everybody was so activated.
That, and I think millennials now have overtaken the baby boomers as kind of one of the largest.
But the
populations, I guess.
Populations or populations that vote?
Populations, period.
Yeah, but the baby boom, the older generations vote more on mass as far as total number of voters. So even though, what'd you say, Gen Z, millennials, whatever it is, have more numbers, they have less voters.
Yeah, I'm so confused as to what years the actual millennials are.
I think we're technically millennials.
I think technically just barely.
I am by like a couple months, so I say I'm Gen X or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, I think the moral of the story here is that I will continue to, and despite liking personally Randy and Matt, I don't buy it. I don't buy the party's value to me, to you, to people that are even aligned with the majority of the values. I don't buy that's what the values that they run on are the values that they govern with. I don't buy it. That's not the game they play. Republicans don't want smaller government. I mean, it's a perfect example, like Bush. I mean, Bush oversaw the largest expansions in the federal government in the United States in history. Trump oversaw the largest spending by the federal government in U.S. history, and they're both Republicans. Small government, less spending, less bureaucracy.
Bush, we added the Homeland Security. How else did we expand it at that time?
Yeah, Homeland Security was probably the biggest portion of it, but I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. But I mean, compared to Obama and
so you can't give any other examples of the biggest expansion
compared to an Obama administration or a Clinton administration prior. I don't recall anything that Clinton's or Obama's did that were anything close to as big an expansion than just the Homeland Security Act. Obamacare wasn't as big and as intrusive
Was Homeland Security a completely new department? I think it just kind of
brand new
became
agency.
the umbrella over something.
It was a brand new agency, had its own everything in the fucking thing, but it was supposed to be like the coordinating effort between CIA, FBI, ATF, and all those as well.
Right. Okay.
But it didn't just put an oversight body or some sort of like, universal management system in place. Homeland Security has all their own people, all their own field agents and all that kind of shit. But Border Control, ICE is still its own entity, and everything else still exists. It was just this brand new giant body for Homeland Security. Anyway, moral of the story is that in and of itself is bigger than anything Obama did in his tenure as president.
8-year tenure.
Yeah. It's such a weird word. I'm sure there's some Latin basis for that, and that's why it exists, but it's just such a weird word.
I think the word was around before it was associated with the accent. I don't think it was supposed to have any kind of connotation with 10 years.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's probably some Latin word that means like experienced or professional or some shit. Anyway, the point is, Republicans, at least on the federal level, and even on the local level, I mean, yeah, I guess Jacobs claiming a Republicanness, demanding no new taxes constantly, refusing the idea of taxes constantly, is a fairly conservative Republican value at play. But, yeah, there's springs in that.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I need to get a pad or something for you to put your stuff on. It was an effort. It was a test table. But again, moral of the story is that, like, to me, I think locally,
that's if you want to put the parties into a box, that each candidate should have the same exact values across the ticket, which you're never going to find that.
Then what's the point? Like I said that last week. Like I went on my whole little rant about Nike and all that other shit. What is the point of because I was listening to our episode earlier this week. I went back and listened to it, and I went on that whole thing. It's like, why, when you're watching PBS or whatever, and they have state coverage, why does it say Becky Massey, Republican, Senate seat 6 when she's up speaking? Why does it say Republican on there? Because it's supposed to mean something. What does it mean? Nothing is what you're telling me. Nothing, because they don't have to have the same values. They don't have to have some sort of unified vision or plan, because what's the point of it? It's a brand. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that it's a branding. It's a branding thing, just like Nike's a brand, just like Liquid Death. This episode is not brought to you by Liquid Death, but I've tried the water just for fun. But Liquid Death is a brand.
No, they have very similar values. And you have, brands that are only associated with, Nike, essentially clothing and apparel.
Okay. Shoes, clothes.
Yeah.
Sporting goods in general.
Not a bad,
soccer balls.
Not a very good apples to apples comparison, but the actual Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, it's a generalized idea that does have some restraints, but it's over like overlapping circles.
Help me out then. Tell me then what a Republican is. What does the R mean when you see an R? What is the general idea that we're supposed to get when we see an R after somebody's name on a ballot? You can do D if you prefer. I don't care which one.
I mean, as far as I see it, they are in generalized terms. Like you said, GOP generally, smaller government, less taxes.
Okay, but they say that, and that's what the brand is supposed to stand for. Okay, I'll get on board with that part of the idea. But then in practice, they don't ever fucking do it.
I would disagree that they don't ever do it.
Okay, hyperbolic, I apologize. For the majority of times, they don't do it. Just as our examples prior, Trump oversaw the biggest expansion of federal budget in the history of time. Obama didn't. Bush oversaw the largest expansion of the government at large on the federal level of any president prior to him. Democrat or Republican. And again, I understand, but that's part of the issue to me too, is that I understand, and we've talked about it a million times on the show. State, federal, local are very different bodies that do very different things. But we put those brands on there. We put the partisanship in play. And so what a Trump does or a Biden does as an R or a D affects the way we, the populace, look what Jacobs does or what we think this Debbie Hensley's going to do running against her.
Right.
You know, I told Tyler Gibbons on, I was like, does it bother you that since you were so intent on running as a D, that what the President of the United States is doing right now is negatively affecting your campaign? And he says, I think it's unfortunate, but my values line up as a D, so I thought it was appropriate to run as a D. And it's like, but your values and his values aren't the same. What does the D mean? Again, it's such, like, I know it's such a stupid, redundant reduction of reality. I get it. Like, I know that is what I'm doing right now. But
as long as you realize that.
But I don't think it's... I think it's important.
It's not as cut and dry as you want it to be.
But I think it should. But it should be treated as such. It should be treated as ridiculous and unclear and pointless. And it's not. It means something. Like, it means something to people. Like, if you go out and survey street, ask random people what it means, depending on where you are. If you go around Knoxville, probably Knox County, rural parts of Knox County, what little are left or whatever, and you go ask people, when you say Democrat, they're going to think the worst of it because they're super redneck, whatever the fuck bullshit. But they're going to be like, feckless Biden and communist AOC, and that's their image of a Democrat because they hate whatever. And then the inverse is true too. You go to downtown Memphis and you ask somebody in Memphis that's a strongly Democratic area, you say, what is a Republican? That racist ass Trump's a Republican. Those are what Republicans are. And I get some of it theoretically is kind of accurate when you get into the hat of Republicanism and racism kind of run hand in hand. I get it. But again, they don't do what they're supposed to do anyway. So what's it matter? I don't know. I think it needs to be treated as pointless and it needs to be mocked in public.
What's your solution?
Get rid of them. Get rid of them as far as a mandatory portion of balloting. Sure, I don't care. Put your R after your name. Put your D after your name. That's fine. But you don't get some special primary that we pay for as residents that may or may not get access to. Like, that needs to go away. That's stupid. The fact that that's tax funded when they do a primary. But the primary is only for them, air quotes. That's a start. I think we need to get rid of party primaries. If the party really wants to do it, they can go and they can hold a convention and they can elect their candidate for a seat and put them on the ballot as the official R. That's fine.
Or party-endorsed candidates.
Right. And then I can run as an I or an L or a D or whatever I want. But if I do have a letter after my name, I'm okay with the party and the party leadership having to approve that. That's fine with me. I have no issue with that. But it shouldn't change my access as a voter, ever. And it does. And that's the top problem I have with it. That's the first step. Because, again, I don't know. We get all these things that happen, and at least in the Senate level right now, it's a 52 to 48, and it's only 52 because 2 Democrats aren't playing by the rules. Manchin and Sinema decided, fuck it, I don't really care that much. But the Republicans vote as a block, the Democrats vote as a block, minus a couple people. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, we just have to pick a couple of people and we got to get them on our side on this thing, and that's how we get passed through this thing. Right. It needs to be everybody gets sold on this, and we push as hard as we can to get everybody we can in, because the point of this is the greater good of who? Not us, the people we work for. And that's not how they act. It's just not. And
many do. Not all, but yes, many do. They're there for themselves and their intentions, whatever their goals are, or whoever their biggest supporters are.
Right. And that's my problem with Biggs, is that's a feeling I get out of Biggs. Like, I get the feeling out of Biggs that he's just in politics because it's fun to play politics. I don't see him as...
Some people revel in that power. Yeah.
Right. I just don't like... And I have negative evidence to why I get this feeling out of him, but I get the feeling out of him that he wants to play in politics. And he's going to play politics, and he's going to answer questions like a politician, not like a person. And I don't want that kind of I don't want politicians in office. That's not how I want to do this. So, even if I do agree with certain parts of the platform that he may run with or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't like. I voted for Jacobs against him for that reason alone. But I don't know. That was that rant. But I don't know. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting sick of it. Like, it's really pissing me off. But
a lot of Americans have that same feeling. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't vote.
Yeah, I agree, and I think again that's
A lot of people just see the nastiness of the vitriol and partisanship. They would much rather just not participate in it.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't blame people. And again, I think it's a problem.
It's easier to bitch at it from afar.
Well, and I think it's a problem that people don't take the apathy or disdain for the system as a vote. I feel like I would. I feel like if I was running for an office, and at minimum there were less total votes in my election than the one before for the same seat, I'd be disappointed, even if I won. I'd be like, man, that sucks.
Right. More
people voted for the last guy. More people voted total in the last one.
Right.
I want to be engaged. I want to be out there with the public. It makes me sad that the public's not taking part in this.
Oh, yeah, and I would have that same mentality.
And I would think,
like, wait, 5% of my constituency came out and voted?
Right, and I got 3%.
Like, how many of those people honestly just didn't like me or just don't care? Or
I got 3%.
Had to work that day?
Right, I got 3% of the total voting populace,
right.
But only 5% came out, so I won.
Because when you have ballot items in there, you're only getting that feedback of however many people came out to vote.
And I would think the appropriate response to that as a politician, not as a politician, but as an elected official, will be to go out and seek out the people that didn't vote and be like, hey, I need you to be involved in this. That's how this works.
Right.
You have to get involved with this. And during my term, I'm going to engage. And when I run for re-election, or even if I don't, I'm like, hey, you're not going to get another one like me. Or
I mean, we see it leading up like campaigns. You're going to do like door knocking campaigns, but I wonder how often in between those cycles.
See, but they don't. I mean, and those door knocking campaigns, they're only knocking on doors that they think makes a difference.
True.
They have the data on it. They're not knocking on doors of people that haven't voted in the last 4 elections. Maybe some.
They may decide to hit. If you've got 4 out of 10 houses in the neighborhood, you might as well hit those other 6, and maybe you can grab 3 more.
Maybe some, but for the most part, they're going after people that vote regularly, that don't regularly pick a side.
Yeah.
And they're trying to pull that person because it's an investment in time because they're investing that time, and they don't want to invest that time in somebody that doesn't have a track record of voting.
Right.
And I get it makes sense, but I think that's gross too. I think that's gross and weird that they have all that data and they use all that data regularly, which is why I don't get any mailers anymore. I think Matt told him to take my address off, which he should because he knows that I'm going to know at least. They don't need to tell me shit.
Right. Like, I've already seen that flyer.
Right. I've already talked to that person in the flesh. This is bullshit.
I already follow you on social media. I didn't need this mailer twice.
Yeah. I know all the goodies. See here. Yeah, and what did I text the group? We were talking about, I had a discussion in a Compass colloquy post.
Have you asked? I meant to tell them next time they came over, ask them how to properly pronounce.
I did. I have, and I still can't say it right.
Okay.
Colloquially. See, I fucked it up. Colloquy. Anyway, Mr. Todd Fromeyer, who, like, every time he posts, I really want to be like, shut the fuck up. You're in Hamlin County. Leave us alone. But again, I can't joke with Democrats because if I joke with Democrats, they think I hate them, and then I'm an evil Republican, and people get on me about it. People don't know that I actually know Todd, and I've talked to Todd many times.
You got to preface joke,
right? And which makes it automatically not funny if I say, "Hey, just so you know, me and Todd are kind of buddies. Fuck off, Todd. You're in Hamlin County. Your opinion doesn't matter here anymore." But he is a subscriber still, so I can't tell him to fuck off colloquially because he pays to be there. So anyway, there's a story in Compass about comparing tax rates and stuff like that, as we were talking about earlier. And so it's just kind of like this. I mean, the nice part about the colloquy is there are a lot of people that know a lot of parts of what's going on and stuff like that. And so it's like, at some point the math, as Matt was saying, is right. At some point, the amount of inflation, how much it's going to cost for labor, for road crews and park crews, and like just the cost of functioning anything going up with inflation is going to exceed, or is already exceeding county income. And so the really crazy game that's at play here is how much does the growth that we're seeing and the change in property values that is attained by the growth we're seeing making up for how far we're falling behind in inflation or whatever. And so it ended up being this weird conversation about trash pickup in the county. That's kind of how the conversation went down.
Huh.
And so, and it's like, I got what's the word I'm looking for here? I got called out for being a rugged individualist or something like that. And he's like the what was the phrase was something along the lines of collectivism isn't the big bad boogeyman. And it's like okay. And that's why I said on the group text, I'd like to talk a little bit more about collectivism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, because I called him out on it, I was like, dude, like, I'm okay with not having trash pickup. I live in the county. I made that. That's one of the things I made my decision on before living in the county. I looked, at least to my knowledge at the time, in the value difference and what I would pay in taxes and what I would get for that. And short version, and it's a pretty generally agreed upon short version, by being a county resident, I have to either pay for my trash to be picked up or take it to the dump myself. And I have to pay for fire service. I don't have access to cat buses, but I do. I mean, I can still jump on the bus from the mall or something like that.
Right.
But the bus doesn't come all the way to my house. But as far as city services, KPD is still technically jurisdictionally allowed to come to my door, even though they're not my police force, for lack of a better word. And so, of the services gained versus the cost, didn't add up to me. Looking at like $1,100 to $1,400 a year. I can't remember what the math was for trash and fire. Where if I did pay that out of pocket, it wouldn't be that much. If I did pay for Mr. Ward's trash service and rural metro, it would be less than that anyway. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, I mean, my reply to him was like, well,
Isn't rural metro like $1,200 a year for their insurance policy or whatever?
No, I think
you don't get full cost if they do have to come out.
No, I think they said my part was only like $300-400 a year.
Okay.
So that's $300-400 a year for that, and I think it was like $75 a quarter for trash pickup, so $25 a month. So $300 a year for that. So I was looking at like $800 max.
Sorry, I'm thinking of when they had to come out before they billed.
No, they billed $1,500 a truck an hour.
Well, they billed me $1,200.
Yeah,
to show up with 3 trucks.
Yeah. That's it.
Think so.
No, it's cheap, man. They told me it was $1,500 an hour per truck.
They didn't get their hose out. They did take over the garden hose that we had connected to.
I mean, mine was different because I didn't want them here at all, and they did tell me to pick up the green line. Pointed at my green hose on the ground. Said, make sure it's close. It's like, I don't know what a green line is. What are you talking about? Yeah. I know my hose is right there, and that's why I have it out here, because I have a fire going. I'm also in the county, and I have a right to have a fire going. I pulled my burn permit. You could anyway. Don't get me down on that one again. I don't want to go.
I wasn't trying to bring that up at all. You automatically just
I can't help myself.
Jumped into it.
And so anyway, I replied to this person who was talking about trash service and stuff like that, and I was like, well, why don't we just have the county take care of our lawn service too? And he's like, that's slippery slope. That's bullshit and not relevant. It's like, no, it's perfectly relevant. There is a collective good that lawn care would do. It keeps rodents at bay, helps keep insects in check. It would do a lot of things that are positive good for the community and not just my yard, just like trash pickup. And it would be cheaper, because his point that he was making was like, with the 5 or 6 different service companies that do it, like if the county took it over and gave ward services a certain section of town and whoever a certain section of town, whoever the other section of town, that it could actually be cheaper for all those companies to operate the areas that they had, which would therefore make it cheaper for us theoretically, assuming they could get that cheaper contract and all that stuff. And it's like, I follow your logic on that. That makes 100% perfect sense.
And trash pickup?
Yeah. I don't want it. I lived in county for a reason. I don't want that. And that's when he comes back with the collectivism isn't the big bad boogeyman. And it's like, well, you're the one that's afraid of it. You don't like the collectivism you're in. We have a collective of Knox County. It exists. This is the collective. This collective has chosen that trash pickup isn't part of it. If you don't like that in your collective, go get a different collective. Who are you to say what the collective... Like, that's the problem with the collective, this generalized collective conversation, because I get down to that later in this conversation. It's like, well, what does collective mean to you? His reply is that we're all in this together. And I wanted to go real autistic on him, but I stopped myself. Like, I wanted to go next level, like super down the rabbit hole. I'm sorry, that's a libertarian phrase. I apologize. I wanted to go next level, like, okay, let's break this down AC style. What do you mean when you say we? What do you mean when you say this? We're in this together? We, Knox County? We, human beings? Which we? Because you're telling me I'm going too far by making a trash or a lawn service proposal, and that's slippery slope. Well, who's we? Because if we are the human species, then that's a whole different animal of trying to have a conversation. Who's we? And then more importantly, who gets to decide what we, the collective, agree on and make action towards? And which he made of kind of a what I took as a tongue-in-cheek joke. He might have been totally serious about it, but I took it as a joke. And he's like, me, and I'll tell you how to do it. And I was like, please tell me what things that you're comfortable telling me how to do. And that's where the conversation ended. And this was like 2 days of going back and forth. This was all going down. And it was fun. Like, I was enjoying the conversation. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was insightful. Jesse jumped in a couple times and made some good points against me. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. That makes sense, whatever. Like, again, and it was funny because when Jesse and Scott were here doing the Compass show, on the way out, Jesse and I were chatting about that conversation in the colloquy or whatever. And I was like, man, like, one of the problems I have is this division of government thing. And to be honest with you, I'm okay with a socialist local government. If the city of Knoxville wants to go full socialist and do everything as a collective, I'm good with that. Because the body is small enough to actually function inside those kind of things. The idea of the federal government trying to go full collectivism, that's a problem. It's unmanageable. There's a mass that we can't get to. We can't manage that mass at the scale of the United States of America. I think we could manage that mass here. Sure. I think the city of Knoxville, or even Knox County, if they wanted to, if they agreed as a constituency through elections of individuals as well as ballot items and the like to move towards a more socialistic style local government, I'm okay with that. I actually think that's the appropriate way to probably do things. I think the Knox County handling like welfare type systems and food stamps and stuff like that makes way more sense than the federal government doing it. Just on the current things that exist. Like, I think that makes way more sense that you have a local government that gets the most of the taxes and keeps it locally and takes care of itself. You know, what's the old saying? What's the Bible verse thing? You can't take care of your neighbor if you're dead or something like that. Like, you need to take care of yourself first. If you're like, I mean, it's like when you're on the airplane, right? And they're going through the intro thing and the masks come down. Put your mask on first and then put it on your neighbor. And then help your neighbor with theirs. Because when you suffocate trying to get their mask on, they're not going to get their mask on either. And you're both dead. So get your mask on. Knox County, oh God, that's a bad, weird phrase to put out there. I apologize. But I'm saying, like, it makes more sense to me that would be the method. And that's the problem I have in the larger government conversation. And that's the problem I have when we get into this collectivism thing, because I'm okay with collectivism. Forced collectivism I take issue with. But if it's local, if it's localized like that, it's a lot less of it. And it's not that easy to move, I know, but it's a lot easier to move from Knox County to Anderson County if the government styles make more sense to what I want out of my life than it is to move from Tennessee to Ontario.
True.
And I think that's the solution that we could have, and it's built into the system. And I like that. But we keep throwing everything federally. Again, it's the same thing with the Roe v. Wade right now. I agree that my opinion doesn't really matter, but my stance on it personally is that your body, your choice, do what you want to do. It's not me. I wouldn't tell you couldn't eat green beans or you had to eat green beans. Who am I to tell you what to do about this either? That's my stance on that one. But it shouldn't be a weird court gray area thing where we're arguing about whether or not it's a civil right. It should be written into law. And if we want to call it a civil right, and that involves the federal government, then it needs to be written into law that way, not in some weird government or in some weird Supreme Court case. Because again, I would be perfectly okay with the state of Tennessee banning abortions, but not being able to stop Knoxville or Memphis or Nashville from having clinics available. Similar to how the state of Colorado, or maybe even similar to how we get like liquor law. Certain dry counties, some are dry, some are wet counties, whatever.
Yeah.
You can make that decision locally. Let you and your neighbors make that decision. It doesn't need to be people from Washington. You know, it doesn't need to be a Marsha Blackburn who is representing a portion of however many million people that live in Tennessee. That's my problem with this system. Because I think I would get on board with collective ideals locally, but not nationally. I don't trust the federal government to do anything right. Period. And again, I have the issue, and I know I'm guilty of it, but I run that all the way down the gambit. I take out my frustration with government that's clearly from federal issues, but I take that out on a county, a school board, a state level government. I take my issues out because it's all baked into one pie, and it shouldn't be, and that's my fault too. But like the ineptness of the federal government, I lay that rage at the feet of the Knox County School Board. And that's not fair of me, and I apologize in some level, but I'm going to continue to do it.
So you see the error of your ways, you're going to keep trudging down that.
Well, it's because I think, but again, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. If you're going to play this game where we're going to...
Why not learn?
If we're going to brand our people, that we're all on the same team, and we're all on the Team R and Team D, then yeah, you're going to get... I'm going to blame you.
They're not all on the same team.
Well, yeah,
most of them agree, but they're still individuals. Do a lot of them lumped together?
They're all on R or D. They're all like right now in this election.
Yes.
In this election, this huge election that we have right now, I want to say we have 4 independents. Everybody else is an R or D.
Locally.
Yeah, locally.
Okay.
On these county elections.
Yeah.
2 school boards there's District 1 school board. There's 2 independents running, and then school board 7 or 2 and 1 and 1 and 7 on school board are running as independent. That's it.
So for the sheriff's race later this year,
it's over.
Is it just going to be? There's not even like a write-in option as well.
I mean, I guess there's a write-in. I mean,
that's one thing I was wondering.
Spangler will be on the ballot by himself,
right?
And you can write it in. Check out Brian Hornbeck's blog though. He does go into the write-ins after every election. Like he'll go dig through and see what all the write-ins were, and it's pretty funny. Some good ones. Dolly gets votes every year.
Right. Peyton Manning always does big in Tennessee.
Yeah, Peyton. I mean, it's a good one. Brian's good for that one,
which I think Peyton had to actually put out a press release in 2020. He was like, "I'm not running for anything."
Well, and again, like just for those that don't know any better, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't like there's 500,000 people in Knox County. There's like 200 and something registered voters. If 175,000 people voted for Peyton Manning for mayor of Knox County, whoever got the other votes wins.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
All right. He would have had to enlist as a candidate. Right.
He has to go through a process pre-election, which I think is a little hanky. Like I don't know. I'm not sure how that. Either way, there's a process to it, and it's pre-election. So unless you can talk him into coming down, filling out the paperwork, and I don't believe he's a resident.
Sense. Like, why should someone that isn't wanting to run be able to be voted into an office?
I mean, it's just because
that would be like the worst politician or the worst person to put in there. You're literally
from overwhelming
required into the job.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, probably not though. Like the people like. I think
you were told you have to be the county clerk.
Yes, I get what you're saying, but at the same time,
you're going to be happy to do it for your full term?
Probably not. But at the same time, the problem is the people that want to do it, the reasons they want to do it usually aren't good for the populace either.
Some, yeah.
You know, and so that's the only reason I kind of even made that joke. Populism. But, so that's my collectivism statement. 2.5 pounds of fucking fentanyl. That's another one that I put in the group. That was crazy.
Yeah. I still say it's not a lot. I mean, compared to what you can overdose on, yes.
Right.
But I don't think this isn't a huge bust.
No, I mean, it's a kilo and some change. It's not a giant amount.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what the conversion was. I'm like, is this even a kilo? Wait, how much is a kilo?
2.2 pounds.
2.2. Okay.
Yeah. The interesting one to me is like this is the headline is repetitive in the sense that Detroit man blank 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 drugs Knox County. Like there is a significant Detroit element in the drug trade in Knox County. Like it's that headline is constant. Detroit individuals from Detroit arrested with drugs or something like that. Like there's something.
Did you hear the story about the bag of beans of people who got busted and were in jail for like a week or two?
Yeah, apparently Herrera was represented one of the two.
Really?
Yeah. And I want to talk to you about that. Yeah.
Okay.
He started his practice during the pandemic, and that's part of why he's unattainable right now because his practice is doing well. He's busy. But I don't know. That kind of shit drives me crazy. Like they said, like in the story, they were in jail for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
because they couldn't afford bail. I assume. I don't know. They didn't have bail. They couldn't get out of jail.
Right.
They're from Florida.
It could have been a really high bail if they automatically assumed, because I think it was like something like 50 pounds of beans or something ridiculous. It was like big bags of beans.
I mean,
I guess it took them that long to finally test it. Or I don't know.
2 weeks, though. I mean, 2 weeks in jail for food.
Right.
Which I'm assuming, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to guess that during the process, they're like, those are just beans, guys. We're trying to take some food somewhere.
Yeah, I think they did say, one of the officers asked them about it, like what it was, and they said frijoles, which is Spanish for beans.
Right. You know, and so just for the
sake, kind
of
of made it seem like they were being kind of cagey whenever they were like asked, and I think they didn't have some other documentation with them or whatever.
Whether they know it or not, Knox County's pretty hard on the potential illegal immigrant situation. We are a 293G certified sheriff's department.
What does that mean?
It's a whole thing. There's been a whole big fight about that for a couple of years now. That's one of the reasons why I thought Spangler was going to lose, because he participates too, but JJ did also. It's some sort of federal program where local police and sheriff's forces
report to ICE.
Right, will report to ICE, and if it is an illegal person who has been arrested for whatever, they will hold and transfer or hold until ICE comes and gets them and takes them somewhere else. And so there's like arguments of constitutionality and all sorts of weird other shit. And it's like, I didn't really quite get it. Moral of the story is Knox County police in general are hard on illegal immigrants. That's the moral of the story. So maybe these dudes and their frijoles knew that, and so they were freaked out because this is a bad place to be potentially illegal.
Apparently at some point, like, their drug dog triggered or made the signal that he smelled some kind of drugs. 2
weeks in jail for beans.
Yeah.
Yep. I hope they get sued. Not that I want to pay for that lawsuit as a citizen, but that's the problem. Like, that's the issue. Like, if I kidnapped you for 2 weeks and threw you in a box in my basement, what happens to me?
Did I press charges?
I mean, I guess if I was really good to you, you might not, but
maybe not. Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
That's fine. It was a vacation.
I'm just saying, if I stole you for 2 weeks and threw you in a box in my basement, what would happen to me? And then at the end of it, been like, oh, my bad, I had no reason to do that, I'm sorry, and then let you go.
I'm sure there'll be a countersuit.
I hope so. I hope it's big.
I don't think it'll be big, but it could be, yeah.
I would be $1 billion. Like, I mean, because again, like, I don't know the guys that were arrested. I don't know their situation. But if they had jobs, they lost them.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What's your career worth? How many years of employment would you put on that tab? What's your reputation worth? Because now you're walking around with this, even though you don't have charges on your file. What is your psyche worth? Because you don't want to drive across town with beans in your car, because you might get arrested. It's fucked up. Like, that's just fucked up. It's fucked up that it took them 2 weeks to figure it out. Like, I'd still complain if it was overnight. If they pulled them over and said, we think these are drugs, we're taking you in. And first thing in the morning, like, oh, these are just beans, guys, sorry. Go about your business. I'd still be mad, but 2 weeks is unacceptable.
I don't know if the court system was that backed up, that it took them that long to actually get arraigned.
I mean, that's just not okay.
Charged with something.
I don't know how else to say it. That's just not okay. Yeah. You better be fucking right if you're going to throw somebody in a box for 2 weeks. You just got to be right. And if you're not, and you're not sure you're right, then you got to take the chances that you let some dude with 50 pounds of weed, or I guess heroin is what they were concerned that it was.
I think so.
Yeah. You're just going to have to let some dude with 50 pounds of heroin drive. If you're not 100% sure it's heroin, you can't do that to people. I don't care. Like, that's a problem. Like, this should be a big, big, big deal. I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big problem. All right. Anyway. I think it's fucked up. Have I said that yet?
I think so.
Okay.
At least once.
So I reiterate, because I think it's... I don't care about the race of the people. I don't care about any of that shit. I care that the badge threw people in a box for 2 weeks for nothing. And honestly, you're probably right. It probably won't be a huge number. And I don't think that's... I guess the real problem to me is, are any of the officers involved going to get fired? Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't know. Was it a KPD or a Knox County story?
I don't recall.
You know,
I want to say it was on the interstate, so which that could go either way.
Yeah, it could have been highway patrol for that matter. You know, I'm just saying, are any officers going to lose their job? Probably not. Is any chief
they may
or
go
sheriff?
back and do another investigation, but I mean, it's going to look at, you know, what made them draw that conclusion. Was there somewhere they stepped out of bounds?
Right, and probably, and I don't know, but I mean, realistically, it's a policy issue, I guess, or it's an equipment and training issue that they couldn't verify the product or the substance.
Yeah, whoever it was, they said they don't have the capability to do like on-site testing. Or I know, like some departments have like those like tiny like little test kits or like little Ziploc baggies.
If you don't have the equipment, then you cannot fucking detain people for beans. Because then okay, so you don't have so what that inevitably means, or invariably, whatever, that ultimately means at the end of the day that the policy of that police force, whichever one it is, the policy is that if you think they have drugs and you think a substance you find is drugs, then you take them to jail. That has to be the policy. There's no other way to get around it, because if they don't have the kits on site to do the immediate testing, then the policy is you take them to jail and you let the actual lab do a full test on it. And then we figure it out on the other side. So the policy is guilty until proven innocent. That's the policy of whichever department did this. And I know I'm being super extreme, whatever, reductionist about it, but that's what the policy is. The policy is we will arrest you if we think it, and we'll figure out if we're right later. That's not okay. That's not the way this is supposed to work, ever. Did you hear about the bus? Some mostly black college bus of lacrosse girls on their way back from a tournament in Florida to Vermont or something like that got arrested or got stopped in Georgia.
Did see that.
I didn't understand the story. I mean, it's a fucking bullshit cop pullover or whatever. I didn't see at least any of the quotes from any of the officers or anything like that, anything implicitly racist about it. I still think it's like, I mean, you pulled over a bus full of college kids, a college athletics team.
I want to say it was like the sheriff of that county in Georgia said that either earlier that day or earlier that week they had busted a couple school buses that had been like smuggling drugs.
Like yellow school buses, or because and again, I don't remember from the story, but I was assuming this was not a school bus. This was a bus, at least like some sort of coach bus,
chartered, probably some kind of chartered bus.
And again, maybe that's there has been a history in that county of that, but that doesn't mean it's racist. Like as far as I could tell from the story, there was no like, oh, it's a bus full of black girls, and we're gonna pull that bus over, not this other one. Yeah, like that was not that was implied, but it was never stated.
One of the students said, I guess, whenever the cops came on, like, had said to all of them, you know, like, even if it's recreational marijuana, you know, it's still illegal in Georgia. Right. Like, tell them, like, you know, go ahead and tell us now if you guys have anything. Before they searched them, they're like, you know, go and tell us now if there's anything on here.
Right. Which the answer should be fuck off. You have no right to look anyway. I mean, should be true.
They have to have probable cause.
And that probable cause is there's other people using buses similar to this one for drug uses. So our probable cause is not the racist version of it, but you look like people that do the crimes. Not because of the color of your skin, but because of the vehicle you happen to be in.
I mean, you can make the assumption it's those college kids.
I'm just saying, like you happen. I'm
just saying
you happen to be in a bus. My point is it's not the racist version of stereotyping or whatever, but it's just we've been having problems with people in vehicles like yours, so we stopped you and we're going to go through your shit. That doesn't give you permission. That's not probable cause.
True.
I mean, that's my point. It's like again, my takeaway from the story is that it was a big racist issue, and it's like I don't think it was a racist issue. I think it's just cops are shitty. Like it's a shitty cop move, period, and it has nothing to do with the race of them. It just has to do with them being shitty cops.
Could have been race involved.
Could have been. But at least in the story, none of the quotes or the statements that you heard from any of the cops or the police chief or whatever in the story, none of it was like because it was black girls. Not that they would say that.
Because they would come out and just automatically admit it when they're being asked about a story that's already broke. Yeah.
But again, I mean, I don't know. Sure, the police chief in a press conference later is not going to say that, but in one of the cops on the bus talking to the girls, talking to the other cop while they're going through all their shit. I would think that if it was a racially charged thing, that there would be some quote in there, like
possibly. I don't know.
But I don't know. Again, that was my takeaway from that story is bad cops doing bad shit that has nothing to do with the, quote, people on it.
Could have been a jump to conclusions, but it was an out-of-town, I don't know if it was an out-of-town bus, but an out-of-town school that was full of black athletes.
Right. Again, I think the problem...
in the Deep South.
Right. The problem being it's just cops being shitty cops, and it may or may not have been racist. It's not that's irrelevant to me whether it was a racist act or not. The entirety of the act was bad cop, regardless of racism. That would just add a layer of bad copness to it. Because you don't have probable cause. I don't care if other people have been using vehicles similar. Like if 08 Nissan Frontiers, if there's a string of 08 Nissan Frontiers that have been running fentanyl from this Detroit guy all over town, and I get pulled over for it, and their excuse to go through my vehicle is, well, people that drive this car have been moving fentanyl. No.
Yeah.
You don't get to get in my car.
I think that could work.
That's, you don't have my permission, so you're going to have to detain me and seize my vehicle and go through my car, because I don't give a shit if other people that drive a vehicle like mine are breaking the law. I'm not. You have no evidence that I am other than the look of my vehicle.
Right.
That's horseshit. That's bad cops. It's bad police policy. Maybe not even bad cops. Let me take that back. It's not bad cops. It's bad policy. It's bad administration of police officers.
It's not the best policy,
not the officers
but it's
in themselves.
It's a crazy gray area in that we ask the cops to do all they can to fight any crimes, and so there are times where they do kind of push the limit. As far as, in an investigation, if you're being interrogated, police are able to lie to you. It's not illegal for police to lie. Be like, hey, we saw it. We already talked to so and so. They told us you did it. You
cool.
Go ahead and tell us now.
Right. I think that's fucked up too.
I agree.
I mean, so
I think in most other countries you're not allowed to do that.
Right. So you admit. So I could potentially admit to something I didn't do to take a lesser penalty for a crime I didn't commit because I believe the cop lying to me about.
That's what a lot of people do. And a lot of people do it just under they've been interrogated for 8 or 10 hours.
Right.
And they're finally just like, what do I need to say to get this over with, to go home tonight?
How do I get this over with? Right.
Right. And like, I just want to go home. Like, I didn't do anything. And they start confusing them, like tripping them up, and they're like, maybe you just don't remember. You said you'd had a few beers, like, maybe you had a few more beers, or maybe somebody slipped you. Maybe you just don't remember. And they're like, I don't know, maybe I did, and start getting confused when they're asking you same questions over and over again, trying to poke holes in it.
Lawyer's the answer. Just say lawyer.
Right.
They have to find.
But
somebody.
most time when you're innocent, you're like, I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. Well, they also say the phrase to you that, well, what do you need a lawyer for if you didn't do anything wrong?
Right.
Because you guys are fucking dicks and you cheat. And I'm not going to get caught up in one of your little games and accidentally admit to something I didn't do.
Most people just think like I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Of course, I can explain this to them. I can explain like you may have a suspicion, but I can explain where I was and I had nothing to do with whatever.
Right. But again, I think I think that's a policy issue too. It's like.
But I mean, have you ever watched like First 48? I mean, that's like there's a story based on it, but the actual statistic that, most murders, if they can't, amass a certain amount of information within 48 hours, it drastically drops down.
Right, so let's entrap people so our numbers look good.
Yeah. I'm not encouraging to entrap or anything like that.
That's all
I'm saying that there is that push to find out everything they can immediately.
Right, I get it.
I mean, it is... It's not an easy job. I'm not trying to give them any kind of leeway for any kind of.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, in our conversation's sake here, we're talking about different subsets of policing as well.
Right.
When you're talking about interrogation, that's not just Jimmy Beat Cop. That's a detective and who is a trained professional at not only police general but also in detective work and gets trained on how to lie to you to elicit the best response and gets trained in all sorts of fun little tactics and stuff. Like we watched like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You a fan of? Have you watched that?
I've seen it. Yeah.
We got really into it and watched the whole series like twice now, and I think it's funny and it's silly, but like I get mad like little stuff like we're talking about now. Like I get mad at some of the stuff that on how it portrays police, because I mean, for the most part, the cops are the good guys in the story, because it's a sitcom based on a police department, and all these characters are the good guys, but like I get like there's a couple times I'm like, you can't fucking do that. That's illegal. That's bullshit.
Right.
And it's like that's not okay.
I mean, a lot of police shows do that. I mean, Law and Order, a lot of those like aren't that realistic.
I mean, some are, some aren't. I mean, a lot of them have. Like, I can't remember. I think it was Law and Order. I think it was. Oh God, this has been a couple of years. There was a Rogan guest that was a retired police officer, and he did some work on one of the Law and Orders, not.
Yeah, I'm sure they have consultants.
All of them, but he was a consultant. I was like, yeah, there's like 2 or 3 of us that have been in and stuff like that, and for the most part, there's some of it that they like super dramatize or whatever, but for the most part, like codes and stuff like that, we try to get them pretty close.
Right.
It's like, all right.
Some of those are less realistic, and that like Law and Order, you got those same detectives that are working on like one case for like a week, and they're spending like all day.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
tracking down leads. It's like, like most of them have multiple cases going on like simultaneously. They've got so many like open and cold cases that they're continually trying to work on.
I just think I'm curious.
But a lot of them are unrealistic, and like 24 as far as going back to like the waterboarding. A lot of people are enhanced interrogation techniques.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, yeah, do whatever you got to do to find out whatever you want.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's a chunk of America that are like, hey, do whatever you have to do.
Right.
To stop crime or
the bottom
whatever.
Line is there's a lot of America that's good with it until it affects them. They're good with a lot of things until it's on me. It goes into a lot of these.
Or they realize what exactly goes on. They're like, oh, I just thought maybe you would yell at them a little bit harder. I didn't realize you were virtually drowning them to get information.
Right, but right, I mean, yeah, exactly. But I think it's both things, though. Right. Is my point. It's like I think there is a that whole. Well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, what does it matter? Right. On, general surveillance or metadata dumps and like all the whole Snowden episode.
Yeah.
That still goes on to this day. And it's like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. What's the matter? Fuck you. Just, no, that's not okay. It's just not okay. It doesn't, you're right. It doesn't affect you. You're not doing anything wrong. It doesn't change anything in your life for the most part.
I think there was a European country that just won it might have been against Google or someone. It was like I think it was out of Spain maybe, it had like a right to privacy. So in Europe, or in the EU, I think they have like a right to privacy, like internet laws.
I mean, we have some too here, but they're different. Like different countries have different ones. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think California may have just. I think Google just stopped fighting some California lawsuit about I think it had to do with online privacy. I
mean, I think, and again, this is my Roganism at play or whatever. Rogan's got a great little ism on it. He's like, it's like Facebook and Google, or Alphabet rather, Twitter and all them, they have figured out how to mine a new resource that we didn't know existed. Like we didn't
realize what it was they were doing with what we signed up for.
We didn't realize what it was.
They're like, oh, you wanted to be on Twitter and like and retweet and all this other stuff. They're like, well, we're also going to keep track of what you're liking.
Right. We didn't realize what it was and how valuable it was until it was so massive that it's hard to change. Like it's hard. Like, I mean, it would be hard to change now. Now there was one social media group that was launched that like had a premise that had a thing where it's like you could engage in certain ways and like, but you could choose to engage in certain things. And when you did that, it would invite an ad, or it would allow a certain amount of data to go to the marketing subset or something like that. But it was like very much like, I don't know, like the idea was like if you had found a vein of coal in your backyard, that you go dig up the coal and sell the coal. So, but instead of coal, it's your data. Okay. And so you can sell the data as you wish inside the app.
Yeah. Now, there's people who do that. I mean, there's companies that all it is just like survey companies. You can get paid $5 for doing a survey or whatever.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's not nearly as valuable as they're all.
There's a value, but I mean, they can pay $5 and get a wide swath of information that gives them maybe a tap into another market
Yeah,
If
but I mean,
people that like A, B, or C or whatever.
Right. I mean, it comes down to it's like I've been doing some stuff. Like I told you last week, I spent most of the Compass money that they paid me on my first check. I turn around and spend it on Google ads for the Compass podcast to try to grow their podcast. So I want it to work. And I'm in there, and it's like talking to Scott and Jesse. The majority of their current demographic that actually subscribes to the paper is older. Like the majority of their subscribers are older, left-leaning people, whatever. And so I was like, I'm going to target this at 18 to 50 instead of 50 plus, which I don't know exactly what their current demographic is. But it's like I could either hammer down what they already have and try to grow their current existence, or try to grow them into other submarkets. Right. But it's like people that search things in politics, search things in news, only people that the IP address is in Knox County. Like you can get real detailed.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like 10,000 impressions of my thing goes out, and it's only here. And I don't know, like I need to dig in and do some more research and work on it some more, because like our most clicked ad was inside a game.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's
some of those are people like,
right.
I've played some games like where you can't find the damn like X. Like I just want to exit out of this. I'm like, no, I don't want to download this. Like, how do I get away from this?
Right. And that's why I'm concerned about it, because it's like
they'll put the no thing right next to buy now.
Right. Or there's the X up in the corner, but the X is white and the screen is white at the same time. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And
you're not sure which top corner it is, so you guess, and it's like, oh, that was a click. Shit.
Yeah.
But I paid for that click. Like that's how. Right. But the other side of it too, as an advert for me, I mean, that gets a little sketchy on those kind of clicks. Those don't really count. But
well, the growing thing now is the targeted ads for basically it's like location based.
Yeah.
Or it's like you're driving by a Kroger and it says like,
oh yeah.
Hey, like either throwing a coupon at you or just reminding you that like, hey, Kroger's got fresh fruit.
Yeah, there's a I can't remember. I think it's a Facebook thing that inside Facebook you can put your Wi-Fi on your, like if you have a brick and mortar business that you have a Facebook page for, you can put your Wi-Fi in on your Facebook. And when people who are on Facebook are in range of that Wi-Fi, it knows it. And then you can start doing stuff.
Get pretty damn close.
Do it?
They'd have to get pretty damn close.
I don't know. I mean
a good 100 to 200 yards.
But I mean, Facebook knows my. I mean, I think the reality though is if a lot of businesses are doing that, it knows that like your phone starts picking up 3 or 4 different Wi-Fi signals, and 2 or 3 of them are companies that have their Wi-Fi on Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook's smart enough to figure that out. Go, oh, okay. There's somewhere right in here. Which one are they closer to? And they GPS market or whatever they do to get it, or which Wi-Fi signal is stronger out of the 3, and it's doing all that in the background of your phone.
Possibly, I don't know. There may be an algorithm to do that, but
one of the credit card, one of the people that sold credit card machines or whatever was coming to us, and they were talking about the beacon, I think is what they called it, and it was just a thing you put somewhere in the room, and it would just ping phones constantly. It would be pinging phones in the room, figuring out what phones are in the room, and then you could use the credit card, the different stuff that the different software the credit card company had to reach out to those customers. Same idea. Basically, you walk in the door, or you walk near the door, or you're within a certain number of yards or whatever it is. I can't remember the specifics of it, but if you're within a certain distance, it's like, ba-ding! Shoot you, like I could set it up to send whatever I want. I could set it up to send a coupon, to send a, hey, you're nearby, so come see this. We miss you.
Right.
You know, and I mean, again, I think there's parts and pieces that's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of neat. What if I'm on my way to Kroger already? I got a coupon?
Yeah, but it's just the ever-evolving technology. I know we talked about it before about, why do we need so many bills? And a lot of bills that go through legislatures are where technology's changed. We've got these new things that there's never been a reason for a law for that. I think I saw an interesting video of that one British guy that has like 15 YouTube channels. Talked about different criminals that got convicted of things. And one of them was like a Canadian guy that stole a plane in like the early 2000s.
Sweet.
And it was something like the definition of an airplane on like the Canadian law book or that province's law book was kind of vague enough to where technically by the law I think he was able to get off on it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't know.
Some of it was just like old laws that were on the book, and some, we had if we wrote laws in the 50s, we had no concept of the internet.
Right. I get that. I do get that part of it. But at the same time, I think, wouldn't we be better served by a government that is educating us about things rather than protecting us from it? Like,
how would they educate us?
Wouldn't the better method be?
So now the government tells us what we should know.
Sure. Why not?
Sorry, I'm just.
I mean, like, would it be more worthwhile and a better expenditure of money for the governments to be like, hey, this is what's going on with these companies. This is what's happening here, instead of them regulating everything out and making laws on it. Make it bad for business to do the thing, because...
I think they do. I see lots of commercials that are put out by the U.S. government telling people about email scams and things like that. Or it's like, the Department of Commerce has ads out. I mean, so they do that to an extent and trying to educate people.
Those seem to be, I don't know. Okay, maybe. I don't know. I'd rather have an educational group than a regulatory group. I think you would get a better effect. Because then you're incentivizing companies to act correctly for their bottom line, not for some legalese bullshit.
You're not incentivizing to do better, because then that would then rely upon a government advising people on something, and then those people then reacting and telling the company, like, oh, hey, we just found out you guys are doing this. We don't want you to do this anymore. That would require a good chunk of that company's customers to force a company to change the law.
Right, but
I understand it's a bit of a government ogres, but it's easier, and you can take out more people with one swipe of just, okay, we're going to make a law that says companies cannot do this.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's supposed to be interacting with us to make that decision. They're not taking the time to interact with us and making that decision. They're just making that decision for us. So if you're going to make the decision for me, what's right or wrong, I'd rather you educate me about it. Like, I mean, simple, lazy ass one would be like the war on drugs. It's like, you can't do either, right? I guess. So I guess that doesn't help my argument for educating people, because you certainly didn't do a good job of educating people of the actual effects of marijuana and stuff like that. And I don't think the DARE program or anything else really did a great job of keeping people from smoking pot for the most part. Reefer Madness did a great job, I guess, but other than that, I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't, like, I think there's, I don't know. Like, if you're in the industry, like, if you don't know the new law exists, you're not doing it until somebody catches you anyway.
I would say more often than not, companies choose policies that are advantageous for them that skirt the line of the law. They do it just to be just barely legal. They'll find, that's why a smart company hires good lawyers and people to dig through and find the fine line. And that's what a lot of laws end up coming into, where you're just kind of pushing the line back and forth. Right. And nobody wants to do anything illegal, but they'll toe right up to that line, which then begins in that gray area of it being unethical. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't know. I'll think about it. I put more energy into that thought process.
It's complicated.
It's not that it's complicated. It's just like, I think I don't know that it's serving the good of the public to do it the way it's being done either. Because I think there's plenty of stuff that gets regulated out that doesn't need to, because it's pot being a simple, lazy one. Again, I'm going to stick with a simple, lazy one.
How's it getting regulated out?
It's illegal.
Federally, yeah.
And in the state of Tennessee.
And I think they're up to like 13 states have recreational, 20-something have medicinal.
Something like that. It's getting up there. It's almost to the point of it doesn't matter. They'll get the gay marriage.
I'm not sure. I know the House
rule.
I think the House passed a legalization bill. I think it was supposed to go to the Senate, but I don't know if it's actually gotten to the Senate yet.
Yeah, they won't. I mean, I don't know.
Which I don't know if part of that was descheduling it.
Biden's not going to sign off on it anyway.
Why not?
Because he wrote the war on drugs. Yeah. Like that's his senatorial legacy, at least. That's his congressional legacy.
Yeah, that was late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, he was a huge...
Could have changed, but I don't know if he's come out and what his stance is on it.
I mean, I don't know. It seems to date...
That was a lot of people's thought when he got elected, and they're like, oh, Biden's going to make pot legal.
I mean, there's a lot of... there's a lot of stuff that he said he was going to do that he hasn't done yet that I can't figure out why he hasn't done yet. Like $15 minimum wage. That was one of his things. He ran on that. Like that was a campaign issue. He ran on being pro-union, and as like one of the things like this was a not Breaking Points, excuse me. That's their old show, the Crystal and Sagar. Is it Breaking Points now? Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, yeah,
I think you were right the first time.
Yeah. Anyway, Breaking Points thing they were talking about. It's like Biden ran on being pro-union, and one of the very specific things he said is that he will not have large government contracts for companies that participate in union busting or any anti-union whatever, which Amazon has been doing a lot in the current union push inside Amazon. Okay. And Amazon just got a $50 billion cloud computing bill for NSA, CIA, something like that. I can't remember whether it's one or a set of the alphabet agencies to do their cloud computing, to handle all their data. It's like, oh, didn't you say you were not going to allow that? Like specifically? And this is something you don't need congressional approval to do something about?
I remember there was a big story about that, about the two competing offers to do that.
Yeah, Microsoft.
It was Microsoft was the other one?
Yeah, Microsoft had one out, and apparently Amazon stole it from Microsoft. Like there was some serious bad blood last time around.
Bidding, like the bidding of it or whatever.
Yeah, there was some serious like shenanigans last time around, and it was back up this year. And again, like a lot of the Amazon union people are like, okay, sweet, this should make our union efforts better, easier. If the populace of employees wants a union, we can do it in a union election and we'll get it, because Amazon can't fight us, because if they do, they lose that huge contract. They fought them, and they still didn't lose their contract, or they got a new contract or whatever exactly broke down.
I think that deal's been in the work for like 4 or 5 years.
That's fine. I mean, okay, so Biden doesn't have to keep his word because the deal has been working for longer.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, it's just. I mean, to me, it just speaks of priority. What's the priority? Make the NSA happy, not the people that elected you. That's how it reads to me. He has the power to do it. It's not a power issue for him as the president. He could absolutely say, nope.
I mean, I would almost say in that instance, I mean, when you're looking for a company to essentially run the cloud computing for...
It's a short list.
Right.
Okay. But it's also a $50 gajillion contract, and that short list is going to bend over backwards to get it. And if one of those things is, hey, we can't let you do this anti-union stuff and compete for this and get this contract, so either stop doing the anti-union stuff or give up on the contract. And Amazon said nope, and still got their contract.
Is this the one and only example that the crystal ball was able to give us?
Of what exactly? Of Biden not doing promises?
Of promising companies being pro-union.
I mean, that's the biggest example. I don't know if there's other ones or not. No, I don't know.
I'm assuming they would have pointed out if there was more than one, they would have reported on it.
But probably. But I mean, it's certainly the largest one, if there is any other ones. I don't know.
It's a large contract.
It would be. A valid question would be: are there other companies that were bidding that got kicked out of the process because of it?
I think it was down to just Microsoft and Amazon.
No, I'm just saying, were there other government contracts, federally government contracts, that were bidding that were removed because of the same rule?
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one to say. I don't know. I don't know how many other companies would be in a position like Amazon to both be bidding for a contract like that and having union issues at the same time. I mean, Starbucks. I don't know. Maybe there is. I'm sure there's some federal government contract to get Starbucks in the Capitol building.
What? You think so?
I mean, if there's a Starbucks in DC proper, it has to be. That'd be a federal contract.
I guess the city is federal property.
I think. I don't know how that works. Honestly, I have no fucking clue how that works. But
maybe considered under Metro DC. It depends on who's exactly floating that bill.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, other companies that have, like, I mean, there's some coal companies and stuff like that have, I don't know, that are having union issues currently, but I don't know if they're vying for contracts for federal whatevers at the same time. Speaking of federal whatevers, you want to talk about that Kaz text?
Not really.
It was a weird one. I don't. This is one of those to me that like I don't like. It's an interesting little sub-bit. It's curious. I do care if they're going to dump a bunch of coal ash someplace that it doesn't belong.
Right. Especially in that area. I mean, I didn't realize, but it's pretty major aquifer in that area.
And it's right the fuck here. You know, it's... Right. But I'm curious...
I'm not talking about the one in Memphis.
Oh,
they were talking about moving it to a site in Memphis.
Right, but it's the current ash at Bull Run plant that they're trying to figure out what to do with or whatever. Which, you know, I mean, it's a valid thing to talk about. I just take issue with it being on this person's campaign Facebook page.
You don't support coal?
I don't. Not for trustee. I don't have any issues for or against a trustee's thought process on coal. I don't really care because that's my takeaway from it. It's like it is an odd stance to take. It's an interesting thing to bring into your campaign. That's the thing. Like, why are you bringing because to me, this is part of your campaign. So anyway, all right.
Maybe people show that he's got his ear to the ground about different issues.
Let me context this for our 17 listeners or whatever. Kaz for Knox County trustee. I can't remember his full name, but Kaz is running against Biggs for trustee. Put a post up earlier today, said the Knox News Sentinel reported Friday that TVA hid its plans to dispose of enormous piles of coal ash in Memphis from elected officials and the public. Keep in mind the TVA also has huge piles of coal ash to get rid of at the Bull Run plant on the border of Knox-Anderson County. Will they dump it into unlined pits as they attempted to do in Memphis? When TVA plans to dump toxic mixture into unlined pits was discovered, TVA decided to dump the stuff in the largely black neighborhood in South Memphis. That was a weird sentence. TVA has demonstrated many times say they cannot be trusted to protect the health of ordinary citizens, and remember the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, run by the Republican appointees, has allowed TVA to get away with polluting throughout Tennessee. TVA's callous and heartless treatment of the sick workers who cleaned up TVA's enormous spill of coal ash in Kingston plant is beyond cruel. We must get the vote out in August and November to elect Democrats to office in order to stop the destruction of our environment. It is so interesting that the CEO of TVA is someone named Ash, because that is all we can expect from TVA. That's actually good. I didn't catch that the first time I read it.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Follow me at CazForTrustee.com on Facebook or Twitter. I follow him on Facebook, obviously. But, you know, again, that goes back to the beginning of the show. This goes back to the beginning of what we were talking about. Why does a trustee Democrat run on that? That's not his job. Has nothing to do with his job. Doesn't matter on his job. All that is signaling that here I have this D with my name and I care about these things because I'm part of Team D. But what does Team D mean? That, again, this goes, I mean, it's the same stupid issue, and I'm sorry I yell at you about it all the time. It drives me fucking crazy. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. The D doesn't mean anything. But all he wants is you to vote for the D. Because what he is saying is the D means something. The D means we care about the environment. The D means we're not okay with TVA dumping the shit where it doesn't belong. The D means that, now, even though that has nothing to do with my job and what I'm asking you to vote for me to do, I'm on the team that cares about this, so vote for me because the guy I'm running against, who has nothing to do with TVA or anything else that we're talking about environmentally, he's on Team R, and those guys are dicks.
It's playing on generalizations, yes.
It's fucking bullshit, and it should be treated as such.
Okay. Yeah.
Makes me mad.
I agree.
Okay. What else you got?
Advertising goes on generalizations. That's what they're fucking doing.
It's bullshit, and it should be treated as bullshit. Makes me mad.
They're trying to catch the widest swath of people. So, yes, they put out the most general statements and go on the most general claims to get the biggest audience. That's fucking advertising.
But what are you selling? Like, what is he selling? He said that makes him a good trustee?
I don't know what his aim in this. He doesn't really say about vote me. I mean, he says visit my side, but...
Well, it says elect Democrats because the Republicans appoint these assholes that are doing this terrible shit.
Right, he's also given the generalization that only Democrats care about the environment.
Right. But a trustee...
Which has partial truth, but not a given.
Again, like, okay, so... But the realistic... the bottom line thing here to me is that this has been one of my issues from day one. As soon as you started talking to candidates, as soon as I started figuring out the minutia... The beginnings of the minutia that I understand now, which is still fucking near nothing.
Right.
The number one, most frustrating, biggest bullshit thing on the planet to me, and should be called out and made fun of and chastised for, is when you, as a candidate, talk about something that is broad and whatever and generalized and put that on as your cloak of awesomeness when it has nothing to do with the fucking job. Fuck you. That's bullshit, and you should be like News Channel should do a story. It says, "Hey, I don't know how to correct this." That's part of the problem because News Channel's not going to put out a story, nor should they, to be honest. Other than me railing on my stupid fucking rants that I've been doing the last couple of minutes,
send a letter to the editor.
But that's I could try to do an op-ed, sure.
Yeah.
I could, and maybe I will. That's a good point. I will. I'll write an op-ed and I'll send it to everybody. Like, hey. We, as a populace...
Yeah, please get a proofread.
We, as a populace, need to do fucking better about how our candidates speak. It is not okay when they try to hang some banner on things that aren't their job. When they start to talk about things that are important to them that aren't their job. It needs to be called out and corrected. It's a problem. It is a real problem. Because it doesn't give us good candidates. It doesn't ensure shit about the candidates. Well, we know that Kaz cares about the environment. Great. I'm sure Biggs does too, but he's going to sell it as I'm a hunter, fisherman, outdoorsman kind of shit because he's going to sell the conservative version of environmentalness. Guns and woods and shit.
So you mad at journalists for not holding
I don't
politicians
know.
accountable, or
I don't know how we got here.
Our constituents.
I think that's part of the problem. I don't know how we got here to this idea that Mayor Jacobs could talk about schools. Fuck Mayor Jacobs and schools. That's not his job. He shouldn't be talking about that as the mayor. As an individual, yes, he has the right to say whatever he wants. But under the title of Mayor of Knox County, his take on what's important in policy in schools is not his job. And when he speaks on that, it should be like, I don't know. I don't know how to correct that. Again, that's my problem. Is he shouldn't speak on that as the mayor. As an individual, he has a right to speak.
I agree that he should take care to watch his words with it and be more forthright in saying that this isn't really within my purview, but in my opinion. And feel free to give his opinion on something.
Right, but I don't know. And I guess the start would be if you're going to run the quote. It should be.
I mean, now you're just asking politicians to be honest, and good luck with that.
Sure, I agree. That is a fruitless endeavor, but yeah, that's a start. But I mean, it should be if News Sentinel is going to run a quote. I think if to stick with the specific, if Mayor Jacobs is talking about schools and stuff like that, and it's from the podium of something that. Inside or following, preempting the quote, something to put context in that although the mayor of Knox County has zero to do with the policy in Knox County schools, Mayor Jacobs was speaking at this event and said this. It should be clarified to the public. I think that is the duty of journalism or of media and journalists, maybe the better way to say it, to put it in the context of truth. Because it doesn't make his statement untrue. It doesn't mean he's lying about it. It just means that it's not his job as mayor. And that when you elect him as mayor or when you're going to vote for him as mayor next time around, you're not thinking he cares about schools when you're voting for him as mayor. Because I think that puts context on when they speak. And I think that's what I kind of wish we could see more of. I agree. We're not going to get them to put context on themselves. As mayor that has nothing to do with schools, I think schools are important.
Right.
They're not going to do that. But we can. Knox News can, Compass can, everybody else can, and should when they're repeating when they're spreading the word of the person only because their job title, then they should make sure that that's clear. Because
you can't force a politician for a request for comment.
Do it.
You can't force a politician to respond to a request for comment.
I understand.
So even if you try to call him out after the fact, There's no requisite that he has to give you
right, but
any kind of explanation.
Again, staying on the specific.
He's like, okay, I pissed him off, whatever.
If he's at a press conference talking about whatever, and you're WBRR and you're running the story, and you run the clip of him talking about whatever. If it's outside of the realm of the job, then you should preface the clip with, here's a clip of Mayor Jacobs speaking about this thing that is outside of the mayor's duties. You don't have to call him back and be like, "Hey, Mayor, was this within your duties or whatever?" Like, I think it's the duty of journalism locally to know what the jobs are, and to keep that context in place for the people that they're disseminating the information to. I think that is the actual difference in journalism and two guys in my basement talking shit. Is they have a responsibility to be honest about the quotes they're using and put them in context that's honest about the situation at hand.
Most journalists are general. I mean, not say they may have one or two reporters that specifically focus more on kind of city-county dealings, as far as in the politics. But most of them are very broad journalists, if they're not even just freelance journalists that kind of come in.
That is unacceptable as a news organization, to call yourself a news organization when you don't know the context of the news you're trying to cover. I think that's shit, and you should be chastised by the public.
No, I'm saying it sounds like you are trying to chastise individual journalists, because it's not like at a news conference, whoever, ABC, NBC, or whatever, sends a reporter. They don't send the whole swath of reporters there.
Okay.
They send one person.
Okay.
That's there literally to just report on whatever the fuck they're talking about.
Right, and when they report on whatever the fuck they're talking about, if they take a quote and either print it or run it on the video that they're talking to, then they should put the quote in context. Not only in context of the conversation or the issue at play, but in the context of the community at large. And if that is a trustee talking about environmentalism in West Tennessee, it should be, trustee candidate Chaz is really worked up about this environmentalism stuff. But when he puts it on his campaign thing, it should be made clear that this is not part of his job. You should not elect him because he cares about environment.
But some of the reporting is literally just reporting on what the person said. So you quote them, and you talk about the kind of periphery on that issue or whatever.
And in that periphery, if what they quoted them on has nothing to do with the job title that they do as an elected person, then you should put that context in that periphery. That's my point. This is Mayor Jacobs speaking as an individual.
We're splitting hairs on a hypothetical situation. I don't want us to get down the rabbit hole of what politician is talking about in a certain context.
Right. I mean, I think the easy one would be if you're gonna do. I mean, if you're gonna do campaign coverage on any candidates, and you're going to take quotes from candidates, and you're going to print those or whatever, then those quotes, those statements, what I'm going to do as the commissioner or as the trustee or as whatever, those should be put into context on whether or not that's within the realm of the job. If it is or is not. Because, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a school board one that'd be maybe a better example.
I still think that, I appreciate your high expectations of journalists and local reporters.
That's why I try to be clear that I'm not a journalist.
But again, at the same time, some of these people are just young people fresh out of college.
But what's the value add? Like, what are you paying for? Like, as the consumer of news, what are you paying for by watching their advertising?
That's ever changing. Literally, I'm sure they're month to month. They're looking at what's getting the most traction.
Right, but what you're paying for with your eyeballs by watching the commercials that they present to you for their newscast, you're paying for them to do the work of journalists.
Right, but it's ever becoming shorter and shorter clips where, like I said, in a lot of the stories, if they go and interview a candidate talking on an issue, they're going to quote that candidate talking about the issue, and that's about. They're probably not going to put more than 2 or 3 sentences from that same candidate. The story's going to be short and to the point. I don't think they're going to go through and fact check and on each little point. Unless it's egregious, I'd say more often than not, the journalist isn't going to call someone out because, A, that could close the door for them getting an interview further down the road.
Right.
There is kind of that delicate balance of being trying to be objective,
right.
but not.
Well, but I think that's one of the. There's a handful of things about the internet that I think that's one of the things that's a problem, is that as a public figure, as a politician of some sort, you had to have the media. You had to work with the media, even if you hated them. You had to work with them because you didn't get out.
They could make you look bad, yeah.
Right, but even if they did make you look bad, or even if they did do whatever, you have no public. You get no time. You get no FaceTime with your audience without them. Now, Mayor Jacobs does a Facebook video once a week.
Really?
He has a Friday Facebook thing, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's very fluffy, and it's very pat myself on the back. But
that's why I wonder if, like, some politicians have crossed the line just to get into the news. I mean, as they said, like, any news is good news, or any
no press is bad press.
Yeah,
that's the old adage.
I think it's any publicity is good publicity.
Right. Well, I don't know. I always use the no press is bad press. That's my version of that phrase that I like.
Never heard it.
Because even if it's bad, people see your name, and that's the number one rule of marketing: is name.
Exactly.
Which is why Trump is so big. Not that he's smart.
That's what I mean. Most politicians just says like their name, and maybe conservative or Republican.
Conservative Republican.
It just says like their last name. Sometimes it's not even like first name. It's just their last name. Like, remember this name.
I think Mr. Kaz is just Kaz.
When you go in and look at a ballot and remember my name.
I think Kaz is really Kaz for trustee is his signs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think the bottom line, and this is the one that nobody wants to hear. The bottom line is we suck. Me and you, we suck as citizens. Me and you are probably better than average because I'm dorking out on it, and I force you to deal with it because I dork out on it. I take credit for your better than averageness in the context of it, but we suck at it. Like, we as a populace suck at it. We put a representative government in place to try to make it easier for us, and instead we just got lazy. As a population, we got lazy and we said, whatever. I'm not doing it. I don't care. I vote the letter and I move on with my life. We have to do better. Like, we just, like, on everything that I've pitched a fit about, on the cops, on the R&D, the R&D, the Republican and Democrats and what they're actually fucking mean bullshit. Like, the entire, everything we've talked about on tonight's episode and probably most episodes we've ever had is we suck as a populace. We let them get away with this bullshit because we're too lazy to keep up with it. And they know it. And they act on that. That's why, I'm convinced 100% that state legislature is an easy fucking job. I will run for 18 in 26. I will run for 18 in 26 as an independent, and I'm going to get Eddie Manis to back me up. He's going to be my champion.
Campaign manager?
No, I'll get Joey, though. Joey was legit. I like Joey a lot. I need to call him. No, I don't have to wait till 26. It's 24. It's 2 year term. I will run in 24 because I'm convinced it is a fucking dumb easy job. I think commissions the same way. Like, I think the idea of full time is bullshit. Like, I get the premise of making it full time to open access to more people. I get that part of it, but it shouldn't take the time it takes already. So why would we want to make it take more? Why would we redesign it to take more, including money? I'm convinced you go to Nashville for 3 or 4 nights a week, you sit around, talk about shit in the bar with your friends, then you go vote on it when you have to. I'm convinced that is the majority of the job.
You talked to many. Like, have you expressed this concern to them? I really don't think you do anything in your job.
No, I just think they
hold them accountable. Next time you talk to them, do that.
I'm just saying, they just talk and talk and talk.
I mean, next time you talk to Becky Duncan Massey, she's still in the job,
and they go vote when they have to go.
Please tell her this. Be like, hey, Becky, I respect you, but I think that half of your week you just go there and don't really do a damn thing.
I will 100% say that I don't think it should be a full-time job. I don't think that you should spend as much time as you do in Nashville. I'm not going to say it's bullshit to her directly.
Don't use those terms.
But I'm going to be like, I don't understand why this is so big and so complicated. I don't understand why the website's built the way the website's built. I don't understand why it's so hard to engage with this. And my assumption on that is that once you get through it and figure it out, it's probably pretty easy. I'll say that. I will say is once you've done it for a couple weeks, once you've played the game for a little while, it's probably pretty easy. Yeah. And I bet you, I don't know if she'll agree with me, but I think it is. But I think, it's in her best interest to say, no, it's complicated, it's hard. Politically. Not honestly, but politically. And I don't know if she'll say it, or I don't know. I'm not saying she wouldn't be honest about it or not. But I get the feeling from talking to a lot of people on and off air that they know that we think it's hard. And they know that we think it's complicated. And they use that. That is a fact.
That is your opinion.
That is my opinion based on many.
It's your opinion that it's easy.
Okay, but
is it a fact that it's easy?
No, but it is the fact that I was trying. The fact that I'm trying to underscore here is that they know that we think it's complicated, and they know that we think it's hard. And they use that fact.
Again, that is going off your assumption that it is easy. Because without that, your assumption that they assume that we assume that it's hard and are playing on that.
It is potentially that it could be actually
You're doing
hard.
a lot of assumptions in that.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's... I think... I don't think the job... Okay, let me rephrase. Let me try to clarify my statement. Hold on. I think that the job is easier than we as the population think it is. How's that? Is that a better way to put it? We think the job is harder than what actually goes on.
Possibly.
I think that's the reality. Maybe that was better phrasing. I apologize for my shitty phrasing. But I think the job is less complicated than we think it is. Watching it.
Again, I implore you, as much as you've talked to them,
okay, I will
reach out to them and see if you can't get to the bottom of this. Be like, hey,
give me a day in the life. I think a day in the life would be fun. Like, give me a day in the life of Eddie Manis.
Please ease my concern in this, because my opinion is that I think whatever. No, please prove me wrong. I want to be wrong. Tell them it's like, I want to be wrong. Please help me understand. Like you said, they're not going to admit that it's easy, but they may be honest and being like, yeah, there's times where, we have birthday parties and laugh and blah, blah, blah. But
no, a better version would, or like a more specific reality would be that I don't think that, unless it's something specifically important to them, unless it's something in subcommittee that they have a specific need to, that they don't spend a lot of time on any of the bills. I don't think they spend a lot of time farming out questions to their constituency when they do it.
I think they spend more time on the bills that they're at least co-sponsoring or sponsoring themselves.
That is a good one, and I have a theory on trying to test that next session. I am going to try to find someone who sponsors some bill that's big and complicated and Zoom a show with them and spend the whole show just talking about that bill. Please explain this to me. Please help me understand this bill.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is. And then see if it's even remotely like that by the time it gets voted on.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily make them a liar. They might actually know exactly what the bill is that they presented.
But it could be interesting to see the process.
Right.
Like, hey. I would almost say reach out to them before that. Be like, hey, if you're getting ready to introduce a bill, I'm not looking for a scoop on it or whatever.
I'll talk to... I spoke to Gloria about introducing a bill, a specific bill, and maybe I'll see if she'll do it, and we can try to do like a mini-series following that bill. Just me and Gloria, like a sub show with just me and Gloria, just this one bill.
Right. Gloria's talked about it's pretty much just like her and the secretary that she didn't have for the longest time.
Right, she answers her phone calls.
Assistant.
Which again, I think that's part of what gets me to the conclusion of we think it's more complicated, because she is actively like, hey, here's my phone number, the phone that's in my pocket. Call me if you have any questions.
Right.
And she puts that on her Facebook page. She puts it out publicly. All her campaign stuff, all that kind of crap. I wouldn't do that on the assumption that I would get 10 million fucking phone calls.
Right.
Obviously, that's not the case. Because when I text her or call her, she answers.
Well, she could have 2 phones.
But
If she's smart, she's got a business phone and a personal.
Either way,
But right, yeah.
she responds to it.
Right.
She doesn't just ignore it because it's overwhelming. It's not an overwhelming volume that she can't keep up with.
I think you said there was one time like she took her like a week to get back to you, but she still got back to you.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a good sign that, at least our legislatures are accessible to.
Well, that one, and she's not even mine.
You've got a little bit more pull than Joe Schmo, maybe. She's at least familiar with you, so she may be that much more inclined to reach back out to you.
Well,
sooner.
I think to pat myself on the back is that I think I'm willing to engage in good faith because I'm not a partisan person. Like I don't care that she's a Democrat.
Right.
Like I hate,
maybe she likes it. She's not looking to kiss her ass, or
I hate the idea that she introduced a bill 3 years ago, and it didn't even make it into subcommittee. And that some Republican from some other county somewhere introduced almost the exact same bill with some very minor reworkings that were not substantive at all, but that other person was a Republican, and it got passed. That is the dumbest thing ever.
Not familiar.
Which makes it clear that their R&D matters, but we're not sure why. Because obviously it's not a policy issue that mattered.
Well, I mean, how close was the vote prior?
It didn't even it didn't even make it through its first subcommittee.
No.
I'd have to go back and re-find the story, but it's just one of those a Republican or a Democrat put it up, and it's in the super majority Republican thing. That was one of those things that pissed me off about talking to Matt in the show we did last week. It's like he's like, you put this all that we're all the same. It's like, dude, how many times do you guys reference the super majority and that the GOP of Tennessee does whatever they want? Well, if it doesn't mean anything, and if they don't vote lines all the time, then why is that an issue? Why do you care about that particular subsetting? And so, all right, so Nashville got murdered. Did they get swept?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Preds got swept. Oh, you know what we missed tonight? We did a show instead. We should have gone. The home opener for FC Knoxville FC, whatever their name is.
FC1, Knoxville 1?
Yeah, whatever it is. They played their home opener tonight.
Did they?
Yeah. 7:30 at Austin East.
Apparently, Nashville's MLS team just had a new stadium. They got finished like a week or two ago.
Yeah, they drew their first game. We talked about that last week.
Oh, okay, anyway.
Was it World Cup summer? Do we have World Cup this summer?
Yep, this fall.
It's
supposed to be this summer.
Stupid cutter.
Yeah.
That's probably the most Englishy bullshit that I do is I see that and I want to say Quater because I can't. There's always a U with a Q.
Well, the last time I heard it pronounced Qatar,
right?
And then somebody told me it's kind of like gutter, but it's cutter.
Right.
I don't know.
It's like,
I'm not sure exactly what the proper
what do you
pronunciation.
do to your girlfriend if she runs her mouth? You cut her.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, I'm not liking that. Is it comfortable though? Like you feel good over there? Is it better than normal? Do you like that better than the other mic stand?
I guess I'm coming around from behind or whatever.
I don't know. We don't have to worry the stand's not
the
tipping
stand.
over and
yeah.
Keep trying to rework this room, make it more comfortable.
Manageable, low maintenance.
Yeah, I know.
We'll just drop it down from the ceiling.
That leg sucks. I need to fix the leg on that table.
It's standing. That's all that matters.
Well, it's mounted to the wall, so it's probably going to stay pretty much no matter what. But, yeah, my Pens are good. Had to go force game 7.
Yep.
The NFL schedules came out this week.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yay!
I mean, I would enjoy having the conversation, looking at some schedules, but that's not one that you're not the proper person to talk to for me about schedules.
No. It was like one day a couple weeks ago. I was watching hockey, and apparently it was like the same day of the NFL draft. Like, you're not watching the draft? I'm like, I give a fuck about the draft picks.
Yeah.
Like, why would I watch that for hours on hours?
I can't. That's what I say about any sport, for that matter.
So I think last time I was in Wisconsin, I think we were at a sports bar,
sports
or whatever.
Bar. At the sports bar.
Sports bar when they were doing the picks. I think we even had some cheese curds.
But I just I don't know. I'm looking. like I cannot wrap my head around, and I guess I can because I'm starting to do the same thing. Like the same conversation that somebody who's like super football, because I'm not super football, but that conversation that you can have with somebody like that's super football, like right now. Oh, your team, you guys drafted this guy and this guy and that guy, whatever. And it's like I don't know who the fuck these people are.
And we had a couple shows with the guy that had the football podcast.
Yeah, Seth, another Seth.
Was it?
Yeah. It was a fantasy football one, but yeah, I need to reach out to him. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I guess I get it though at the same time because like realistically, if somebody comes up to me and I'm a Packers fan and I'm a football fan, or whoever talks to me about the Packers draft, I'm like, I don't know who these kids are. I don't know where they went to college. I don't know. Like sometimes, every once in a while, there are people, there are names. I'm like, oh yeah, the dude was a big star at Ohio State or whatever. Yeah, I know who that is in the draft or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I walked up to that same person and started talking about congressional issues here in the state of Tennessee, like who? What person? Where are they from? Why do they matter to me? It's like it's the same premise.
All right.
It's like I'm neck deep into this, and I know the names and the players, and I'm not fully deep. But then you go to Matt Shear's level or Randy Pace level, where they're talking about the high school kids. Like I've met people talking football who are talking about high schools in Arizona.
Right.
Of this, this kid, this wide receiver out of this high school in Arizona, he's going to be the next big thing. Is the university that you like gonna go out there and give him a scholarship so he'll come play at your school?
Right.
And then he's going to be a pro and blah, 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 blah. Like there's people at that level of football, which I would put Matt and Randy in because they're the ones that know who's going to run for a particular seat before there's even real public conversation about it yet.
Right.
Like Elaine Davis was running for 18 against Eddie Manis probably a year ago. That conversation had already been had.
Right. I mean, you're going to have that conversation. You're going to kind of test the waters to see if
but I'm not that deep into this
have a
game.
chance. And then, you're going to reach out to the party chairs and be like, hey, are you guys going to back me? What are my chances?
Right. But I'm not that deep. My point is I'm not that deep into this game yet. I'm getting there, but
right.
I'm not. I don't want to get that far. I don't care who's running for 24 yet. Like I don't think that matters to me yet. Maybe. I mean, maybe when it'll start popping around. I'm very interested in this 18 race. I think this 18 race is going to be another big one.
But then, kind of in that same logic, you're kind of expecting the general public to know so much more about the inner workings of local, state, and federal government.
Right.
And we've talked about it before, like, how do we have time to even keep up with anything?
Right. We can't. Like, we're trying to and can't.
Right.
How does a person who's not even tried have a shot in hell?
And still have a daily life.
Right, with media not helping at all.
Right.
It sucks. The premise, I
get the frustration, but
Compass is the best at it that I've seen so far. They're the best at it. They do good profiles, good short snippets, and you get a good picture of a good basic picture of who's running for what seat where. Local. I haven't seen anything from News Sentinel. I know they do a little bit. They'll touch here and there. A couple weeks ago, they did the Sunday morning show with a bunch of school board run candidates. I think it was the District 1 candidates or something like that. But, as far as something that's easily, quickly palatable, which is not what we do either, like it's what my attempt is on the website. I think that could potentially be the best value thing I do if I put the time into it, is the website. But I don't do a very good job of it, and I apologize, everybody. I don't keep it. It's like I'll get like 2 days where I'm just like full bore. I'm in. Here we go, and then I don't finish in 2 days, and I barely do anymore. Like I just can't. It's
spend that time doing that versus arguing on Facebook groups.
Well, but I usually do that while I'm working, so it's like it's while I'm walking around a grocery store.
Oh, gotcha.
But I don't know. Again, like I want to spend a lot more time on the collective conversation because I really think, for me personally, I have an issue to defend my libertarianism on because I'm not. I think it's appropriate to have different political leanings on different levels of government. I think the idea that you're a Democrat federally, state, and local is problematic. But I think part of the problematic part of that is that you only have two choices for most of those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be appropriate for a person, like, I guess my picture on it is, I want a libertarian federal government. I want it as teeny tiny as it absolutely has to be to fulfill a very specific set of jobs. And that very specific set of jobs starts with national security.
Well, your pushback with collectivism is there being abroad, there's other people. And you're now then wanting your version of how you want the government to be, and everyone else should accept that. So what makes
no? I'm not I'm not asking anybody to accept it. I'm just telling you this is my thought process on what I think makes the most sense, which I think would be most effective.
All right, this is what you would want to be in place. All right, never mind. Sorry.
No, I get what you're saying. That's good. That's actually a good argument.
That you were pushing back on people.
I have no offhand.
You were pushing back on someone that was like...
But I think that stays... But I think within my grander scheme, my grander vision that I'm getting to, it makes more sense. Because when the fuck off move becomes the default argument, if you don't like it, leave, becomes the default argument, it shouldn't be if you don't like it, leave the country. Like, if you don't like it, leave and go to Anderson County, okay. It's doable. It's manageable. It's not it's not easy. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's a manageable expense. It's not a crazy amount to, again, that was my joke earlier. It's like, if I get pissed off at a thing, I can go move to Anderson County fairly easy, but to move to Ontario is a bigger issue. Right. Go to Mexico.
That's why in most instances, you do have that localized city differences to county difference to states being different, having their own
but again,
autonomy.
But again, one of my repetitive things I've said a gajillion times is, I wish our taxes reflected my principle in this. Do the math for yourself whenever you want to do it. Bring it in. We can talk about it. I pay more taxes to the federal government for less services than I do to the state of Tennessee for less services than I do to Knox County for the most services. Does that make sense? The government body that provides the most services to me.
We talked about this before, yeah.
I don't.
It's hard to itemize everything that the federal government does for you and the options that are available to you. Like, and us talking about the comptroller. I think I brought it up. That may be a better place to start. But within the comptroller's office, there's like a small business advocate or kind of person that helps small businesses navigate.
Right, but I
guess the bureaucracy of state government.
But I think the majority of the regulations,
to where that's something that your tax monies are going into, to where you have an option that is benefiting you that you have no clue that it's even out there.
Sure, but part of the reason I have no clue in the other is because it's all the way over there. It's a Nashville thing. Whether it's a statewide thing, I get it, but it's a Nashville thing. It's over there. It's not a city county building right here that I can go to easily and interact with easily. Because honestly, for the most part,
they don't have a phone number or anything.
Honestly, for the most part, when it gets down to local issues and local ordinances and stuff like that, it's fairly easy with a full day and money for parking to go down and take care of business. I can go to the police department and get some paperwork done. I can go to city county building and get the paperwork done. I can go to all these different offices and do all the different things I need to do.
We have 311. I've been curious what all information they can actually provide.
I don't know. We could do a whole show where we call them.
It's supposed to be like a city kind of general questions where I think, like, hey, I need to figure out about city trash service.
Right.
They can give you the people you need to call for whatever.
Right. Which is good, and that's a good service to have. But I'm just saying, like, when the further the service is away, the less likely it's going to be used. Just generally speaking.
Right. And that's when I was looking at some of the federal departments kind of going down it, that there is an actual department for essentially like advertising the benefits of other departments.
That sounds extra bureaucratically complicated.
It could be viewed that way. But it's also, it's like you're saying that you don't even know that some of these services are even out there.
But again, to me, the question is, they only need to exist because of the breadth of the federal government. All the different departments exist because the federal laws put in place to make them exist and blah, blah, blah. And so
Because if we took those away, the problems go away.
We added a department. We added a department to help people understand what departments are available and how to use the departments for your best interest and blah, 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 blah. Right? That's the idea of that department that you're just mentioning. Problems go away? No. What problem?
Start bringing it with me.
Bring what with you?
What
did you say? Bring what with you?
Oh, my list of departments I started writing down.
Oh.
Where I actually went to like one of the main government websites as far I went to like, the State Department or I think with the State Department and what all things were involved in the State Department.
That's one that I think, honestly, the State Department is one that I actually think should exist. That is supposedly, at least in broad strokes, that's supposed to be the International Affairs Department. That's the branch of the federal government that deals with, I don't know, trying to go to Europe to buy baby formula right now, which they're not doing, but whatever. But like reaching out to other countries, dealing with other countries, assisting other countries with problems they're having, getting assistance from other countries who have means to help us with the problem we're having. Yeah. That's what the State Department, that should exist. That is a good one. I actually like the idea of that one existing. I'm not sure I like the principle.
An absolute necessity to have a department that is focused on your relations with other countries.
Now, to say that it is acting well in its general principle, that's a whole separate conversation. But the idea of that department makes sense to me. The Department of Defense makes sense to me, generally speaking. In the broad strokes of their mission statement, we are the Department of Defense. We make sure that no one comes here and kills our people.
Right.
That's simple. That's not what they actually do, but the broad strokes version of it, I think that needs to exist. And I think for the most part, when you go down to the top level departments, most of them need to exist. It's just all the subsets and all the different little iterations and things that go down as you work through it is when it gets the bloated part that doesn't need to exist.
I'd say there's definitely some fat to trim, but looking through most of the departments that I saw a need in different aspects of it. A lot of them were business related, where it was, for me, they're from state commerce, business to business across state lines, kind of helping smooth out those relations, and even, international trade relations, essentially. And then even within that, you've got trade relations within different whether it's commodities or goods or even just money transfers, money lending from one country to another, or you've even got, we've seen it now with with Russia trying to, sell oil. They're like, basically you can pay us in rubles, where we hadn't really thought about that, but there's crazy, banks that just do these middlemen of billions of dollars that are being paid from country to country, depending on goods being bought, or goods being traded.
So I don't want to say it. You're going to get pissed.
Okay.
I'm going to say one of my standard questions. I don't want to get you mad.
What?
How does
that help me?
Yeah. How does some weird...
It's all about you?
How does some weird... Yes, it's all about me.
America is sus.
Yes. How is it a net benefit for me, the general American citizen, for a department to regulate banks in international trading?
Because it benefits our country in those trade relations.
As opposed to, I don't know...
If we constantly get the raw end of the deal, our economy is not growing.
And if I don't know what would make sense in this one. If I, as a gasoline distributor...
Well, let's go back to the Amazon thing. You don't like the Amazon. The government should just scrap it because you don't like it. It's not benefiting you.
The Amazon? Like the rainforest?
No, sorry. The Alphabet and government contracts with the cloud-based contract. You don't like that. It doesn't benefit you. The government just shouldn't have it.
I mean, how
does that benefit you?
We're 2 hours and 10 minutes in. You want to start You want to start a conversation about how Homeland Security benefits me? You want me to try to explain like how the need you want me to argue how I don't believe the need for Homeland Security exists matters. Is that the argument we're right now?
I'm trying to push back what I thought was your logic at that time. That you didn't like that.
I didn't say I didn't like that anyway. I just said that was a Biden promise that he didn't hold.
Gotcha. True. Touche.
But
sorry. My misrepresentation.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I could quite figure out how to start to articulate the Homeland Security issues that I have. I mean, go back to the fucking cops arresting people for beans issue, and having some weird federal cop thing exist doesn't make beans less undeadly, but whatever. I mean, fuck, I don't know. Like that was, whew, you got my brain blown up. I need to not start. No, I mean, just like, I think, I don't know. I understand the idea.
You understand other things happen without your approval.
That's not what that is not.
I mean, there are businesses that want to operate.
You know, that has nothing to do with my generic question of how does that help me? How does it help anybody? Okay, fine. Well, how does some department figuring out the proper exchange for rubles help anybody? If I have the need to figure out how to exchange into rubles, if I'm a gas company that I've been buying Russian oil to refine into gasoline and sell it locally, and that's my business, then I should not get fucked by Russian oil. I should not buy Russian oil if they have a tendency to fuck me as the customer. Just like I shouldn't go to Walmart anymore because they're fucking assholes and I don't like dealing with their bullshit.
So
it's the same thing.
You don't go to Walmart anymore?
I don't buy things from Walmart because they're fucking dicks and they have 37,000 U-scans instead of people checking you out. The place is always trashed. And I refuse to support that. I've made that decision. I will pay a couple dollars more for the same thing at Target because Target puts a clean store in place and real people check me out. And I can ask questions and somebody might be able to answer them. I don't feel like I need a tetanus shot to go into Target.
U-scan there.
They have one there too.
More so because I want to just go in there for like 2 or 3 things. I don't do big shopping.
I mean, and as much as I complain about it, I'm the same way. If it's only a couple things, and that makes sense to me. Like the idea of the self-scan, if you have a couple things.
It's skewing their metric as to how many people they think they need.
Well, yeah,
they're like, I guess more people using U-scan.
Kroger's,
we have less now.
Kroger's is adding like the conveyor belt ones, where you unload your cart into a conveyor belt and you go scan your own shit and bag your own shit. Like the Kroger's adding the ones that are like the full line, but it's self-service.
Damn. What the fuck's the point of the conveyor belt?
I don't know.
Why would you not just pick it out of your basket?
I don't know.
Scan it,
I don't know
to
what the
bag
thought
it.
process is, but they're like,
well, we've already got the conveyor belts. Let's just turn that conveyor belt into a U-scan.
To me, I think let
the people have fun with that little foot switch that makes the belt go.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the whole premise of grocery stores right now and their adjustments weird anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the reality is you're not going to the grocery store in 2 years.
Was it Amazon that had started a couple test stores where they were completely unmanned? Mm-hmm. I think you essentially walked in with your Amazon wallet and just whatever you walked out with was what was added to your
scanning out of your cart. Right. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's a stupid concept too. I think the reality is the go-kart or the shopper, the professional shopper thing that the different companies do. I can't remember what the different ones are called.
Yeah.
But you're going to just get on the app, make your shopping list.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
I feel like an old man. I'm just like, no, these little kids. And
I mean,
clicking the buttons on their phone and having it delivered to them.
Get comfortable with it, man, because I think store pickup and delivery is going to be the only option before too long. I think
a lot of companies have gone under doing
that
because there are a lot of companies that were kind of like, hey, we'll deliver it to you within half an hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of those companies are not surviving whatsoever.
Like Amazon, like the third-party ones are dying off, but like, I mean, for me, it's one of the things that drives me nuts about a customer.
Well, it requires a decent infrastructure. I mean, in a major city, you would have to have...
Right, for full delivery, sure. Delivery, yes.
Well, I mean, if you're one of those times like, oh, we'll get it to you within an hour.
Oh, yeah, that's dumb.
I mean, New York City, you've got to have some kind of warehouse or something scattered throughout the city that you can have someone go pick that shit up, pick the order, and still be able to deliver it.
Oh, yeah, that's dumb. Well, I don't know. I don't think they. I think one of the things to do, one of the plays, is to not. I think one of the things that's rare is the in-house deliverer. And I think Amazon's one of the few major movers that's still doing it. Like, obviously, like Domino's and pizza places, and Chick-fil-A started doing their own deliveries. But I think using the Uber Eats or the Postmates or whatever,
right?
I think that's the move. The gig economy delivery driver, I think that's the move. Is you go, we have a contract with Uber Eats or pick Postmates or whatever as the grocery store. We'll pick your food. We'll pick your groceries. We'll bag it up. We'll charge it to you. We put it in Jimmy's car. Jimmy delivers it to your house. We don't. I think that's the move. Grand scheme moving forward.
All right.
Because I think one of the things that Kroger and Food City and the big grocery stores don't want is the third party ones, and those are around. My sister-in-law uses those all the time. Like, it's an app, and she gets on the app and she makes a grocery list.
All right.
And she sends it to the app, but it's a gig person like that goes in and does the shopping,
right,
and then packs it up and drives and delivers it.
Yeah, talked to a couple people that do that, or I've read stories about people that do that shit.
But I think that one, I think Kroger's and them are making efforts to get rid of that one. They don't want those people in their stores. And I think it's going to be a quick shift.
I mean, hell, I'm getting annoyed going to some of the grocery stores.
I hate that shit. I hate those fucking shoppers.
Pick up, and they've got that giant cart that's taking up half the fucking aisle.
Yeah. I hate those shoppers.
So I understand they're trying to do their job. They're like, hey, I got 20 orders I got to pick right now. Like, I'm sorry I'm in your way.
But there's two different ones, though, is because you have those and then you have the third-party ones. And, I can get behind the third-party one. Well, you're an individual, whatever. You're kind of a customer like I am. So I can't really complain about you being in my way. The big ones, though, I hate. The in-store ones, I hate. I hate when I'm waiting for you to get out of the fucking way so I can grab my bag of chips.
Right.
It's like, you work here, get out of the way. But you don't really work here. Because
right.
You can't ask them for shit. You can be like, hey, well, where's the peanut butter? Oh.
Like, sorry, I'm working right now.
Right.
I know you're working. That's why I asked you.
Yeah. I asked you because you work here. It's like, yeah, but I'm a personal shopper or whatever. It's like, I don't care. You work here. Right. Yeah, but whatever. Anyway, last call. What else you got?
Nothing major. I had that weird. It was a hunting related story that I read.
Oh yeah, come on, do it real quick.
We're already over 2 hours.
That's fine. Come on, do it. We'll forget about it by next week.
All right. Well, I was kind of curious what our other two compadres had thoughts on it, but there was a story. I believe it was out of
what two people? There's no other people.
That's true. I think it was out of Virginia. There was a landowner that was upset about hunters that were coming onto their land to retrieve their hunting dogs. Which I forget, apparently, I think in the state of Virginia, there was a good chunk of areas that I guess with seasons and different animals that hunting dogs is a lot more common there. But apparently by state law, you're allowed to retrieve your hunting dogs on somebody's property. The guy even went through, I don't know if he had
so like bear, like Tennessee, you can do boar and black bear and raccoon and a couple other ones with dogs. Like I know in Tennessee, there's a couple of different species that you're allowed to use dogs on.
Right. Like I think in some states you can use it.
It's not about retrieving your kill on somebody else's land.
Right. It's retrieving your hunting dogs.
It's my stupid dog runs into your yard and I got to go get it.
But according to the law, the hunter can go onto your property. Because the guy was even like, I put up no trespassing signs. But apparently that's null and void as well. But I wondered if it's a difference if the guy puts up like a 6-foot fence. But I guess if there's a fence, the dogs can't get onto your land. But so I guess that answers my question right there. I didn't think about that. But yeah, I guess, and I think they said, I'm not sure if it was in Virginia, but there are some states that if they do have a law that they're able to come onto your land, they can't bring their guns onto your land, essentially. That it's only to specifically retrieve their dogs, and they're supposed to, once they get their dogs, leave your land.
Well, I mean, I would think that would be the standard regardless. So what was the actual event? Was there a specific event that started this conversation? Like, did they come to get his dog and then shot an animal on the land?
No, the guy was just more pissed off that it was a state law that people were able to come onto his land and he had no say over, because it was their Department of Wildlife Management or whatever.
I mean, I
basically said that, like, hey, right. That was his thing. He was like, I understand, they've talked about it now with more people, moving into more city people looking to move out into the country, moving into rural. But I guess they're trying to run to that more.
Yeah, I can see that as an issue. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
I wouldn't go to my neighbor's yard so if I'm playing ball with a dog and I put one over the fence, I don't go to my neighbor's yard without talking to him first.
Right.
I think that's the appropriate thing to do.
Right.
And
that's
if you had no. Yeah,
I think that's generally what happens. Is more people are respectful, but I mean, I'm sure you also run into other disrespectful hunters that don't care about regulations.
But I side with the property owner. Like, I side with the guy that owns the land. It's like,
right.
You need to control your dog. Your dog came on my land. You need to talk to me before you come get your dog out of my yard.
Right.
I think I agree with the property owner that says that's a bad law and shouldn't be on the books. I agree with that 100%. You're responsible for your dog. Your dog came on my land.
Yeah. I think they interviewed some legislator that had been in there that was, I guess, kind of familiar with the law. And said the basic kind of like, most people have been able to get along. We've had this law in the books. We've had hunters that have hunted with dogs for years.
Nah, I don't fucking care.
So it's been a little bit more common.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
I think he tried to equate it down to like, city folk come out to the country and they just kind of need to. This is the way we've been doing it for a while. Like I've been hunting with dogs since I was 10 years old or whatever.
Private property. Okay.
And I think a part of that was how it was used. So maybe these people that were coming on this guy's land, were never talking to him whatsoever. And then we're like, hey, sorry, I'm on your land.
Right.
I'm just trying to get my dogs.
But at least in the way you described it, the law says they don't have to.
True.
And if the law is if the law is in place and I don't have to, why would you? I don't have to wear a seatbelt.
I mean, it would be weird to require them to contact you, because if you're not there and your hunting dogs are on that property, and
I'm sorry, you have no way
of.
That's my no. I mean, I cannot. For a private citizen, I mean, for the state for that matter too, but just for the simplification of the conversation we're having right now, for a private citizen to come on my land, they have to ask my permission. Period.
All right.
End of story. I can't think of a situation where they shouldn't. Maybe. Well, they're trespassing either way, but that's just to be a decent human being. I don't know. Like, maybe their buddy, their buddy got shot and fell into my yard, and they went into my yard to get their buddy out and take him to the hospital.
Right. I'm with you. I thought it was kind of odd that I was like,
that's
weird
a fucked up law.
That it's on the state books that I guess you can legally retrieve your dogs.
It's not private property.
I did like that they at least through that, right? And that was his big thing, that it essentially I guess equates down to, I guess,
it's not private property,
like state-owned property or whatever.
Well, I think
that's what he was asking for, like some kind of like recourse of it or like money. And they're like, hey, well then I should get some kind of money if it's not my land and I'm not able to have control of my land.
Like, because to me that's one of the things that we've talked about a couple times, and other things in tax issues and the property tax that's going on right now and the changes and shit like that. I have a fundamental issue with property tax. I have a fundamental, bottom line, unethical. It is not okay. Property tax. It's not okay. Same as the car tax that we've argued about. Registration.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't own anything by law. I don't own anything, property wise, in the state of Tennessee. I own 2 businesses. I don't own any of the things that are in the businesses, technically, if I don't pay my taxes. That's a problem. I'm not okay with that. I don't own my land. I don't own my house. I pay for it, but I don't own it. The state of Tennessee owns my house. Knox County owns my house.
The bank holds your deed.
Even when I pay my house off, Knox County owns my house.
How so?
If I don't pay my taxes, they take it.
That gives them ownership?
Oh, if they take it from me, yeah. If I don't pay my taxes, they take it. They seize the property because I didn't pay my taxes. Property tax is bullshit. I'm okay. I'm okay with the idea of taxation. I'm okay with the idea of a collective and the means to pay for the collective things that we're doing through some versions of taxation, but property tax is not one of them. Because I don't know my house. I don't know my yard. I don't know my land. I never will. No matter how long I live here, no matter how much I pay, I never will own it. I will always pay rent to the state. Or the county, rather. Sorry. I'll always pay the county rent. These leftists out there bitching about fucking landlords and the evilness of landlords. I have a landlord too, and I own my house. And it's bullshit. It is not acceptable. Like, that is a fundamental ethical wrong to me. And I don't like it. Obviously. Again, I'm okay with paying taxes. I'm okay with the community good. But it should not be a property tax. You should not be able to take my house from me if I don't pay my property taxes.
Did you take it outright? Not take out for what you owe, and
I mean,
you're getting the dividend?
It's not like it's a simple process and they do it all the time or whatever. But yeah, like I mean, at some point they seize your house, and I don't know what the totality. I don't know what amount. I don't know how many years of not paying your taxes that has to accrue before it happens. And not even that. I mean, realistically, the other unethical issue with property tax is the gentrification issue. I bought a house for $15,000 in 1980. Paid it off in 20 years. Keep paying my property tax, but they built some fucking baseball stadium down the street, and all of a sudden my property value jumped tenfold. And I can't afford the property tax. I have to sell my house and move. I never owned my house then. You never owned your house. You never did. You lived in it for 20 years. You paid all the bills for 20 years, but you never owned it. Because all of a sudden the value of your house changes and you can't pay the taxes for it. And you have to sell your house because you can't afford to live there anymore. That's not right. That is not ethical. It's bullshit. Should have been the start of the show on that one, because we could have gone on. I could have gone that one. To me, that the reoccurring property tax is a problem. It just is. I can't justify it. I can put on my most generous version of the collective, and I cannot justify property tax.
What taxes can you? Never mind.
Well, I mean, again, I can justify the idea of we as a community should pay for the roads. We as a community should pay for police service. We as a community should pay for X, Y, and Z, and we agree on that, and we can vote on that, and we can do all that things. But it should not be determined by my house, by the value of my home today or tomorrow.
Would you trade an income tax for no property tax?
I don't know.
State income tax.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what the alternative solution is, but if we never actually own anything, it's weird. It's just weird.
Sure, you're kind of not semantic. You're playing this crazy thing about not owning it.
You don't own it.
How do you not own it just because you have to pay taxes to own it?
Okay, so I don't know. You're wearing pants right now. Thank you for wearing pants to my house. I appreciate that. You're wearing pants right now. You have to pay $1 every year to keep owning your pants. You don't own the pants. You have to pay to keep them. You don't own them. It's rent. It's not a mortgage. It's rent. If you have to pay to keep something. It's a lease at best.
No, if I'm renting it, I can't sell them.
Do what?
If I'm renting that, I can't sell it. I can sell these pants.
Okay. But you can't keep them. I can sell the house.
Does that overlord of my pants get a cut of it? No.
I can sell the house, but
right.
but at the end of the day, the same landlord exists.
Do you get your money when that sale is made? Yes, the city and county get taxes on the sale of it or whatever.
But I can't. Sure, you're right. I can sell the house. I can sell the house, but whatever I get in replace, I'm renting that too. I'm never out of the thumb of the state.
All right. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but I think it's an odd way to look at it. I guess I never thought of it that way.
Okay, so think about it this way, all right? So, again, let's say...
No, I get exactly what you were saying, because you're paying a yearly tax on something, you don't
Right.
own it. So
But
I don't own my wages because I'm paying a tax on my wages. That if I don't pay it, they can start garnishing my wages.
Well, I mean,
'Cause if I don't pay it-
they're garnishing it in process. That's the way income tax goes. But
Right, and I still pay taxes. I don't own my paycheck because they take part of it every year, and I've got to pay them at the end of every year, or I may get some of it back. Like I said, I don't own my income.
I think the better.
I don't own my income.
No, my house might not be the best example because I'm a white dude that's got a little bit of money. The better example is going to be the real example of why it's a problem is Magnolia right now. East downtown right now is going to get priced out by taxes for people that own their homes. And the only reason that works is because of property tax. The only reason that we can live in this system where people get gentrified and moved out is because of property tax. It has nothing to do with...
Gentrified was when
it's when a bunch of white people move in and property values go up. That's what gentrification is. A bunch of white people move in, they do a bunch of upgrades, property values go up.
I thought gentrification was just getting a mixed cultural neighborhood.
Nah, it's way more racially devious than that.
I thought it was racially devious.
No, gentrification is the most racist of the racist things.
Predominantly, raced neighborhood, and all of a sudden you're getting just a wide mix of things.
All right, so we'll save gentrification and property tax for a future episode because I can go off on this one for hours. Sorry, listener, that's a 2.5 hour show. We did it again. Anyway, almost@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our website, almost.com. Check us out there. Election Guide 22. I'm going to start working some more interviews in the next couple weeks. I'm really, like I said, I've been focusing on this Compass thing, getting this Compass thing off the ground. If you're not already a subscriber to at least their podcast, go ahead and do that. I don't know, pay for their actual newspaper too. It's actually way smarter and better than we are. Hopefully I can have stuff. Anyway, almost agreement. Thanks for listening. Have a great night, everybody. We appreciate you, and we will do more stuff later.